the video game. This will cover everything of importance that happens in the canon storyline of Mega Man. So, what does that mean? That means all the numbered Mega Man games. That means Mega Man X, the sequel series. That means Mega Man Zero, the other sequel series to that. And that means Mega Man ZX, ZX Advent, and Mega Man Legends. That is the canon timeline. To get ready for this lecture, I played, I think, 38 or 39, maybe 40 games. It took me like 3 months, I think. That was back in May. Now it's the end of August, so yeah, took me about 3 months. So much Mega Man. I beat all the real games. Some of the stupider ones I just played a little bit. Just right now, I just played a little bit of Battle and Chase. What's this? All right. Well, if you just want to get right into hearing about the subject matter at hand, which is understandable, it's probably why you click the video. I'll put a timestamp down below, and you can jump right to the next chapter. But if you want to know why I'm doing this, why does this video exist? Well, there's a few reasons. Let me tell you about them. If you've been to my channel before, you've probably seen a couple of my other lectures. My two other three. How many? 3. I think I did 3. Yeah. Those were done as part of a series that we called the PCP lectures. That stands for the Procrastinators Podcast Lectures, because they were done at events called RadCon, which was a thing where me and my fellow members of the Procrastinators Podcast would get together and do stuff like that. Anyway, a few.
Oh my fucking god. Okay.
Get off the horse! Shoot the man. Shoot the dog too.
Oregon State residents. If you have a utility meter like this on the side of your house, you could get paid to go solar for no money out of pocket. It costs nothing to install the panels, and you can immediately get a credit on your bill when your meter runs backwards. And then you get paid for the excess power you produce from solar. There are federal and state subsidies available to you to get paid to go solar, but they are expiring soon. Not all homes do qualify, so make sure you click the link to see if you can make $100, $200, or even $500 per month with solar panels at no cost to you.
And they have these things called quantum refractors that are the power source for everything. The world has a spelunking-based economy, you might say. You gotta go down and get these things. That's the money of the future, is these energy-producing quantum refractors. So dig outers, go down and delve these depths and find them. So you play as all right. Right off the bat, I have to get into some localization stuff. In English, your name is Mega Man. Mega Man Volnut. You have a first name, last name. Your first name is Mega Man, and you are a guy. And your sister, but don't worry, you're adopted, is Roll. She's nice. She wears red. Oh, and she does machines. You two are collectively dig outers, although you, Mega Man, are the dig outer and she is the spotter. Basically the person who contacts the dig outer via radio and tells you, like, hey, I'm looking at the signals and, hey, ooh, I'm seeing a signal over here. Ooh, looks like danger over there. That's dig outer and spotter. That concept of the person who's in the field doing the adventure stuff and the person who is contacting them by radio, the X games will become obsessed with it for some reason. Then again, X4 has that in its tune. It came out in the same year, so maybe who knows who started that trend. But anyway, you have a little pet monkey for some reason. Get into him. Your grandpa, not your grandpa, Roll's grandpa, because you're adopted, is this guy, Barrel. And Roll's parents are missing, and she wants to find them. This is her mom, Matilda. She has a dad too, but he is slightly less important, so I didn't put him on the board. The first game takes place on Cadillac's Island. And, oh, right, I forgot to mention, this world is like an ocean world. Like, the world is flooded. There are just a few islands here and there, and you have an airship.
I think next week I'm going to go back to doing figure studies, because that is actually just really important. And even though I'm trying to study anatomy stuff, like, I think that's going to be like... Hey, Jackson, how's it going? I'm just prepping up. I am
The way people get around.
I didn't expect the stream to actually start, because I was just like clicking on it, be like, oh, you know, the stream will start at 11:30, like 1:30 automatically once I click start streaming. And then it just started streaming once I clicked the button, and now the stream is here, performing for you. It's great. Okay, so that's that. Pulling up the comic right now. I can get started on it right now. Gonna watch some more of this video today. I'll start playing that right now. I'm all good, just doing some homework. Law, how are you? I guess I already saw that. Oh god, are you on? This stream is probably gonna be buffering with the oh my god. Yeah. Your messages are probably gonna like buffer general. Replay. Fine, microphone. Oh, my brain. Oh, my brain hurt. My brain does big hurt. Is big hurt. Yeah. Frame device, default. Peak meter type, sample peak, play. Yeah, okay. Yeah. I'm not gonna reset it though. I don't do, so. See. Alright, I'm gonna press play on this video, and we're gonna get started on finishing this up for today. Oh, what was I doing? Fuck. Okay, drop mic. And yeah, okay, today's the day. I'm gonna get shit done today.
And of course, the airships run on said quantum refractors. You get marooned on an island called Cadillac's Island, and you are there trying to find parts to fix your ship so you can keep going. Roll is on a lifelong mission to find her parents. There is a
Okay.
massive super treasure called the Mother Lode. That like everybody wants to get the Mother Lode. I think they mentioned the Mother Lode first. The Mother Lode is most central in the center. But you are on Cadillacs Island. There's a town. You hang out in the town. It's nice. It's really nice. Cadillacs Island is such a nice video game place with its big chunky PlayStation, PS1 polygon, pixelated textures. It is so charming and delightful, and I just appreciate it as a kid. I think I played 2. I think I rented it. It was like, what is this? Where are the Mavericks? There are these pirates, this family of pirates, the Bond, Teaselbon, Tron.
All right, now it's time. Let's go.
Bon, their baby.
Let's fucking go.
Bonbon, and I'll get to that. Tronbon is a genius robot maker type, and she has this legion of funny little dudes called Servbots, or Kobun, as they're called in Japanese. According to what I've read, that word is similar to the word, or it is the word you would use to describe like a follower or an underling, but in like a mafia sort of way, like a Yakuza kind of setting. Maybe an English approximation would be like goon, but yeah, they call them the slightly more generic Servbots in English. I won't go beat by beat over the plot of this game because it's quite long. It took me a whole day to play through it. Long story short, you're exploring these caves and being antagonized by these pirates and trying to get big crystals out from the depths. And I should mention before I go any further that in Japanese, his name is not Mega Man.
Let's go.
His name is Rock.
Yeah,
Volna.
I'm excited.
Rock and roll. And this becomes a problem in the English because the twist at the end is when the final ruin of the island opens up and you delve deeper than ever before. Rock goes down there and he finds all this ancient technology that's still active, and he finds this guy, and this guy is like a computer man, and he recognizes you, and he's like, Mega Man Trigger. How fortunate to see you return to our domain. And you're like, who is Mega Man? That doesn't make any sense. Because your name is not Mega Man. Your name is Rock. And so this is supposed to be like like you're supposed to have gone the whole game without hearing Mega Man or Rock Man. But in English, I guess they decided they had to call the character Mega Man because if they didn't, people would be confused or something. It's a little stupid. And it actually gets a little stupider in 2. I forgot to come back around to make this point, but it is important. So let me explain what I mean by it gets stupider. In 2, in the Flutter, the airship, in Grandpa Barrel's room, you can find his journal, and he describes finding Rock in like a crystal.
Where's the Mega Man and Hello Kitty crossover? The world needs it. I don't know, honestly. I know that I watched a Gundam and Hello Kitty crossover at one point, and that was pretty funny.
Because Roll insisted on naming him after one of her favorite
Like, there was an unironic one that was made at one point. It was pretty good.
Given in English, and I guess that segues into Mega Man stuff, Rockman stuff. Is all over these games, like in people's houses and in stores and stuff. You can find like Mega Man games and posters of like Zero and X and old Mega Man and Robot Masters, and on magazine covers and stuff. It's hard to say exactly what they were going for with it, but it is the case, and you can read into it whatever you like. Mega Man is named after the video game series Mega Man not in the Japanese, but in the English. That is why that's his name. I hope you feel good about knowing that. But anyway, this guy says, like, hello, I am Mega Man Juno, bureaucratic unit. I am in charge of population control on this island. The ancients put me here to monitor the population, and it seems things have not gone according to plan. Perhaps the Mother Master System must reinitialize this island. Yes, indeed. He's part of some computer, and they're gonna, like, kill everyone on the island, because they're like, no, this is outside of parameters. Mega Man Juno refers to the people on the island as carbons. The Japanese word is decoys. This is what he calls everyone who's living on Cadillac. And you're like, wait a minute, reinitialize? What, you mean like kill everyone? No way. And then you fight him, and you beat him, and then you're like, oh no, but the computer started doing the thing it's gonna do, and like a big satellite is coming down from space, and he's like, uh-oh, that's bad. Your monkey friend, he shows up, and he knows the password to stop the computer, and you're like, how did you know that? And he's like, oh, Mega Man Trigger is your secret name. You lost your memory of the past, but when you did that, you put all your important memories into my brain chip so that I could remember in case you ever needed it. So that's why I know secret things about your past and about this master system that seems to secretly control everything. Okay, well, no more elaboration needed. Let's go. So you get back on the ship and you head off to greater adventures, and that's Legends 1. Okay, so here we go. The most important thing is that Rock Volnut, aka Mega Man Trigger, and this bureaucratic unit, Mega Man Juno, calls Mega Man Trigger a purifier unit. The bureaucratic unit calls you a purifier unit. We're both
Zooey Mama. True.
the system, or the master system that controls all these ruins. This eye here is
I would fix it,
robots in the ruins.
but that would require me like shutting down the stream, and I just
And they have
don't
this big
want
red
to do
eye
that
called Reaverbot eyes.
right now because I'd like share the stream with so many people.
Okay, I mean that's one.
That I just don't want to go through that. So I'm just gonna be more careful setting up the next stream.
People would never have played, especially not in the West, because it was, well, one, it was never officially translated. Two, it's on mobile. It's surprisingly ambitious for a mobile title. Like, it's fully 3D. I mean, the frame rate seems a little rough, but it sort of plays exactly like the real game, which is kind of wild. It's called Rockman Dash Grand 5 Island Adventure, and it's a little episodic story. I think they released like one new episode every week for a while. Uh-oh, Teasel Bond kidnapped Roll. Now you gotta go save her. Uh-oh, now your new island's being under attack. Now you gotta go protect them. Uh-oh, the pirates went to the next island. You gotta follow them in a little airship battle. This was all the way in 2008, so this was quite a bit later, almost 10 years later. But I'm pretty sure it's set between the two games. I wasn't able to play it.
Yeah.
I watched videos of it, and what parts I could not find videos of, I read the script of it. Long story short, you explore a couple of ruins, and you find a couple of like ancient tablets that have words on them, and you...
Are you able to hear the video well at all?
They're like the key. You find this giant tower. I don't remember if there are hints, or maybe it's just a fan theory that it is some sort of ancient orbital elevator, as in, like,
Okay,
it
that's
used to
good.
be a tower that extended into space that might have been used to travel to the moon, or a
I was like,
or a space station, or
pass
something, but it's
Oh wow,
the
that you
orbital
actually
one.
responded pretty well.
That is...
Okay, you responded really quickly. Maybe I didn't fuck up the stream.
Wait just a dang second. Yeah, the timeline kind of matches up. It might have been an unintentional parallel. Maybe, I don't know. Hard to say. Talk about that when the time comes. Mega Man Legends 2. Rockman Dash 2. I guess I should mention that there is technically a demo for Rockman Dash 2 that was only released in Japan, and so I was not able to find it and play it in English, but it is like a demo preview of 2 that is a different content. It's called, what is it called? Rockman Dash 2 Episode 1, Roru-chan Kiki Ipatsu, Roll's Critical Moment. And Rolls gets kidnapped by Tronbon, and you fight Tronbon, and you fight...
What is man was mega. Wow. It's so fucking deep.
Sadly, I wasn't able to play it. I wanted to. It sounds like
So
it's
fucking
actually
deep.
a pretty neat demo. I don't know why they didn't release it in English, but anyway, that's a preview for Rockman 2 full title, Rockman Dash 2 full title, Rockman Dash 2 Episode 2 Orinaru Isan, or Great Inheritance, aka the Motherlode, which is this secret ultimate treasure, better than any of this crap, any of these stupid quantum refractors that you find in dungeons. No. What you really want is the Motherlode, but there's only one, and it's legendary, and if we found it, everything would change. What could it be? Well, the plot of Rockman Dash 2 Episode 2 concerns this
Top
guy
10 deepest
called
quotes.
Von
Yeah.
Blucher, who is a friend of your grandpa. This guy.
All these other treasures are crap.
Casket. Roll's name is Roll Casket. Why is your name Volnut? Why isn't your name also Casket if you were adopted by the Casket family? I don't know. Anyway, von Blücher builds this giant ship called the Sulphur Bottom to land on the Forbidden Island, which it turns out is the Forbidden Island that Roll's parents disappeared on. That's where the Motherlode probably is. It's surrounded by a big hurricane. It's hard to get to, but the Sulphur Bottom can do it. Things go awry when Roll's mom mysteriously appears and is like, haha, don't go to the island. I know more than I'm letting on. And then she rides a dragon off away, and everyone is like, wow, what's that about? So you got to go to the island and figure out what's going on. Actually, in this game, you go to like 7 different islands. You go all over the place. This one's a little less cozy. It's a little less cozy and a little more epic, but you know what? It still rules. Okay, in summary, you go to this island. You want to find the Motherlode. You want to solve the mystery of Roll's
Cozy
mom.
kitty.
You want to avoid... Oh, you're being antagonized by these pirates again, the Bonds, but also...
Sorry for being a little less social this stream. I just really want to get this comic done today.
There are 2 other guys
before the end
that are part of this alliance
of
of
today.
guys trying to find the Motherlode before you do. This guy's name is Glide.
This
He,
part's gonna be a
forgot.
bitch
I skipped
to try
over
to get
the
done.
video game, the spin-off.
I didn't think about this part, honestly, as much as I should.
This game's Japanese title is Turon ni Kobun Rokuman Dash City. As I mentioned earlier, I do not speak Japanese, so it probably comes as no surprise that I cannot figure out how this title would directly translate to English. The particle ni indicates that the word before it is the subject's destination or location or intended purpose. So the Kobun are going to Tron. Remember, Kobun is what the serve-bots are called in Japanese. Maybe it means the serve-bots are with Tron? Future Ben, you absolute rube! The Mega Man Knowledge Base Wiki's trivia section clarifies that the Japanese title is most likely...
Yeah, understanding. I'm using everything to distract me from homework.
Meaning
Fuck yeah.
coin to a cat, which is similar to the English...
Needs
saying,
homework anyway, am I right?
swine. So if we wanted to keep
Who
the
needs
title
grades?
idiomatic, and if
Why,
we
I
went
dropped
with
out of
the
college.
translation that I would have picked for Kobun, goon,
Start
maybe the title should have been
trying to get commission
the
work.
Trona Goon. Actually, no, that's terrible. Never mind. Which is about being her on an airship, and your big brother Teasel has gotten you into debt to build the ship and didn't tell you about it. So he gets kidnapped by this rich guy named Lex Loath, who Glide works for. Glide comes and collects the debt and kidnaps him and puts him to work in a mine. And so you have to Tronbon, take over the ship with your serve bots, and you have to start doing odd jobs to make the money to pay off the debt. And by odd jobs, I mean, like, going to towns and robbing banks and blowing up people's houses and killing cops. And it's so awesome. I love this series. I love Tronbon. I never knew. I thought it was bad, but it was good as a whole. You also do boring stuff like dungeon exploration, dig outer stuff, but, you know, whatever. We live in a spelunking-based economy. You gotta play the game. And by the game, I mean of capitalism, not the Misadventures of Tronbon. You should play the Misadventures of Tronbon, though. You have 40 unique serve bots under you, and each one has a different ability, and each one has different stats, and you can pick your favorites out and raise their stats up, and some of them will give you items, and you have to give items to a different one, and that one will unlock its ability, and stuff like
My
that.
GPA thinks homework is good, lol. Yeah, GPAs are stupid.
For this rich guy. The end of that game is, turns out the thing they were mining was a giant reverb.
GPAs don't know what they're talking about.
But it comes alive and you beat it, so it's fine. I guess the long and short of it, in the story of Mega Man Legends 2, is you find these people, these mysterious people with the dark skin and the teal hair, and one of them is like, this one is like floating in a crystal, but when you find her, she awakens mysteriously. And you take her back to the Sulphur Bottom, and they keep her there, and Blucher talks to them, and they're like, well, hey, she says you gotta go collect these magical keys, go collect them before the pirates do. So you do that. Once you get them all together,
I just love the cat. I love Box Cat so much.
What do you do with they unlock Secret Ruin or something? I don't even remember what the keys do.
Whoever
but
worked
I
at
remember
YouTube thought that was a
you get
good
the
idea
keys,
was very correct.
And this girl, did I mention her name is Sarah? And she has this manservant named Geets. And
I might play
Sarah,
Chibi
once
Robo
you get the
sometime.
keys,
I've been thinking
they
about
are
that.
like, "Thanks,
I really
idiot."
like
You
Chibi
get the
Robo a lot.
keys, and they go to space. But first, Geets transforms into a dragon. Geets is a dragon. It's not the same dragon that showed up the first time with Matilda. It's a gold dragon. The first one was silver. But anyway, you fight Geets as a dragon, and it explodes, and it knocks you out. And Trigger, Mega Man Trigger, aka Rock Volnut, he awakens ancient memories of a time when he lived on a space station called Elysium with this guy. This guy is called the Master, and he is what's referred to as, he's the last of the so-called pure humans, and he lived for 3,000 years in this space station called Elysium, in this big sort of artificially recreated place that has like a simulated sky and simulated grass and stuff, where the pure humans used to live. And the Master lived there for 3,000 years, and you were his favorite
Pure humans.
yeah, favorite robot friend.
No,
part of the Master system.
Trust me when I say it gets even more interesting and weird from here. Like, at this point, like, Mega Man lore starts to get, like, really fascinating. To me, at least. Especially when you get around to, like, ZX, in my opinion. Meanwhile, ZX tends to have, like, the most silly plots in the series, actually. But it's still really, really cool. Like, the silliest plot, most interesting lore.
Hey, Mega Man.
Of the timeline.
Hey, Trigger. Mega Man Trigger, I guess that's what he would have called him. You know, I sure do like being 3,000 years old and living on this...
FNAF lore has nothing on Mega Man. Yeah.
Contains all the DNA of all the pure humans.
I more so just enjoy... I think FNAF lore is fun. I just like how Mega Man lore connects to each other at the end of it all in the greater whole. It's really fun in comparison. Like, FNAF lore is fun, but I don't know, it doesn't really make you think much about the themes of it, really. As much as Mega Man lore as a whole does.
But, you know, those fake humans that live on the planet now, those carbons, you know, I kind of think that maybe they're more human than we were. Because, you know, we had this perfect fake ecosystem that kept us alive forever, and all our hardships were resolved, whereas the carbons had to struggle and stuff down on the surface and live like real people, and scrap and fight and eat and give birth to new children and stuff. So, who's the real humans here? You know what? Take me down there, Mega Man. Let's go see him. I want to go and be one of them for a minute, for just a moment. And he goes and he gets to the Earth and he's like, ah, beautiful. Well, now that I'm here, I will die instantly. But it was worth it. So, he tells you, go back to Elysium and delete everything. Delete the archive of all the pure humans. Forget about them. Just the carbons are fine. Let them live in peace. We don't need to do the reinitialization program. Just shut the whole thing down. And then he dies. He dies, and he says, I go now to be with my true mother. And then his body, like, fades away, and he becomes this glowing ball of light. And then the ball of light fades away. And it's like, what does that mean? There actually might be something to that. We'll talk about it. Oh, we'll talk about it. So, this is what Rock Volnut remembers. He used to be the Purifier unit for the Master System. The Purifier unit, by the way, is a unit of the Master System that is designed to eliminate aberrants or irregulars, or in English they're called aberrants. In Japanese, they're called irregulars. Remember, irregular is the same word that Japanese uses for what we in English called mavericks. So he is basically a maverick hunter. but in this case, maverick or aberrant or irregular means any unit that goes against the master system. The master system is a computer that controls everything, controls Elysium. There's like a church, and there's a bunch of religious stuff in the game that suggests the people worship two goddesses, and the reveal is that the two goddesses are these two, Sarah and Yuna. They are two what's called mother units. They are sort of designed to oversee the master system, one on Elysium,
fuck it.
which is an orbital space station, and one on Terra, which is Earth. And these are the two goddesses referred to, and they have their two servitor units, which are Geats and Gats, and they can turn into dragons, and that's what they do. By the way, Yuna is around. Mega Man sees her in his memory that is restored, but it turns out that she had... Remember, Roll's parents went to the island a long time ago. Well, they got shipwrecked or something, and Yuna, for some reason, was, like, damaged and had to put her nanomachine into her. She had to borrow her body to continue. It's this so stupid. It's like, oh, yeah, she was injured. She was dying. I had to put my nanomachines into her and take over her body, but also I was injured, and that's why I had to do it.
Fuck.
But also,
weird.
Don't worry about it. I'll give you your mom's body back when I'm done with it, but it's okay because I had to because she was dying. Because I was dying, but that's not why I did it though. But it was convenient. Matilda has Yuna operating inside her brain, but it's fine. She'll give it back soon. Also, you do meet Roll's dad, and he is just some guy called Joe on a nearby island who has lost his memories. She never figures it out, but it's obviously this guy with a big fake arm. He's got a big robot machine arm. That reminds me, I forgot to mention that Rock can just take his arms off and replace them with other things. That's the version of special weapons in this game, is you can just replace your arm with other things. And it's like, well, how does he do that? Because he's just a kid. Well, okay, I mean, sure, you find out later he's not a kid, but nobody thinks it's weird that he can just do that. And you think about it, and you're like, wait a minute. Yeah, his body kind of looks like a robot body, and actually Teasel's body kind of looks like a robot body, and, hey, why is their baby brother like this big metal-looking robot head? What's going on there? I didn't think anything of Joe's robot arm. I didn't think anything of Barrel's mechanical eyes and head plate. I mean, humans get prosthetics, but... Well, it turns out, and this seems to be something that is not really explained in the games anywhere. Somebody asked some devs about it on Twitter, and there were tweets that kind of clarified it a little bit. Anyone in this world, any carbon, which are the people, all these people, not the Master System people, but all the regular people on this world are carbons, and carbons are artificial humans created by the Master System, which was built by the ancient pure humans. And the carbons, they are flesh and blood creatures, but they can, at will, just pop their body parts off and replace them with robot parts. Even their whole body. It's not even like, oh, they need to leave their head. They can replace their head with a robot head. And that's what Bon Bon is. It's normal in this world. Everyone does it. It's fine. You might never pick this up because nobody talks about it in the game. But I guess you wouldn't. I guess you wouldn't talk about it if it was just normal to you. So yeah, that's what's up with carbons. They are people, flesh and blood people. They can reproduce and all that, and yet they are also like basically the same as machines. I assume that pure humans are not like that. Also, I guess I might as well mention that in Legends 1, there's a part where you have to go into these underground, I guess they'd be caves or areas, and they're called like the prototype Anthro unit housing structures or something. They're implied to be a place where something called the prototype Anthro unit used to live. They're underground, but they have an artificial sky overhead, kind of much like in Elysium, the place where the master's house is the place with these artificial islands and these artificial holographic sky overhead. The prototype Anthro unit, I would assume, were the carbons.
Oh yeah, if you ever feel like sharing this with anyone else, be down to do so. The more people on this, the better. And then other
There
people
we
can
go.
start like chatting with
So,
each other
basically, how it shakes
on the
out
stream if they
is
ever want to.
Yuna and her manservant Gats. This is Gats. This is Geets. Have decided that, yeah, they're cool with what the master wanted. Destroy the system. Heck with it. These two, the Elysium Mother Unit, is like, no, the system was designed to one day reinitialize the planet of the Carbons and restore the pure humans. I guess at some point in the past, there was some cataclysm, possibly the same cataclysm that flooded the Earth, and the pure humans went to Elysium, and they left behind the Carbons on the planet. I guess I think it says somewhere that it was to preserve their society, like keep civilization going so that when the humans come back, like it's all in working order. I guess so it doesn't all fall into ruin or something like that. Just keep it warm for us. And when we need to, we'll snap our fingers and you'll all be killed, and then we'll just come back and pick up like nothing happened. Yeah, anyway, you fight her. She turns into a big battle body monster. After you beat her, she like kind of falls over, and Yuna comes and she's like talking to her like, hey, I know, are you pretending to be asleep? I know you can hear me. And I don't know whether that's some weird localization thing where they pretended that she isn't dead in English to make it kid-friendly or something. I don't know if that's the case. It's silly either way. Anyway, the ending of Mega Man Legends is Tron Bon and Roll, who does machines, remember, they are arguing over how to build...
Whoa!
To
Look at that. Look at that
to
shit.
in space. They've been trying to build a rocket to get to space because they
Look at this. That's so nice. Holy shit.
And all these, whichever ones of
You
these
see
are
that?
alive, they're on Elysium, and I guess they can't get back. I'm not sure why they can't get back. I forget. It doesn't matter. But these two trying to build a rocket to get there and rescue them, and they can't figure out how to do it. They've been trying.
Oh
to
my
build
god,
it.
that's so good.
They don't know how to build a rocket. A simple multi-stage rocket.
Holy shit, that's gonna save me so much time with something like that.
It's
Oh my fucking god.
and it will
That'll save me
Alright, so that's
so much
that.
time.
Yeah, there was going to be a Legends 3. It was canceled in 2012, and I didn't think anything of it at the time because I didn't play Dash 1 and Dash 2. But now that I know, in describing these games, I'm only giving you the like key story beats. It probably sounds, just like some anime, sci-fi, any other dang sci-fi nonsense, and it kind of is. That's true, but like, I don't know. The real meat and potatoes of these games are wandering around in these towns and talking to people and exploring, retrieving artifacts, coming back, trading them with people.
Alright, I'll be back. I'm gonna grab some more water.
And now,
Plus, I'm on my 5-minute break.
just how sad it is that Legends 3 is canceled. And I wish that weren't what I had learned. I learned about these games only to become sad that they were so unceremoniously canceled. It's truly, truly, truly shameful. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit, and before I get back to X, I'm just going to finish up the classic era, because there was only 2 more that were released until I think like 10 more years went by without them making one. Let's see. Rockman and Bass was in 98, and then the game I'll talk about after that was the next year, 99. Yeah, and then there was no more classic Mega Man until 2008, so about 10 years. The next game in the series was Mega Man and Bass, or Rokuman Ando Forute, because remember, they're called Forte and Gospel in Japanese. So the plot of Rockman and Bass, well, first of all, I'll say it was released on, was it the PlayStation and the Game Boy Advance? It was released on a home console and on the Game Boy Advance. I realized after playing it that I had played the Game Boy Advance version, which is worse. It is worse because it has a smaller field of view and it makes it very awkward. I did not like Mega Man and Bass very much, but I think it would have been better if I had not played it on the handheld model, so it might be partially my fault. You can play as either Mega Man or Bass. Either way, you are fighting against this guy, King, and King's deal, he is He's another robot supremacist. This is a Wily creation, and Wily has made him, and he is the strongest, and he has actually gotten...
Every week.
He got Tengu Man and Astro Man. Those two...
My dad makes bread.
And plus these other...
Like, he makes, like, sourdough bread.
So he's got 8 robot masters.
And it's always, like, the best shit ever. And I forgot that he made it today. So when I walked out, I was just the happiest little girl to see that not only was no one there, so I didn't have to socialize with a single human being, but there was also bread I could just pick up. And it was so nice. Oh, it's so good.
But then, you know, he lets Proto Man teleport away to safety to get repairs, and he's like, yeah, I wouldn't...
Oh, it's so good.
You know, he's a robot like us. He does show...
Oh my god, it's so nice.
That's worth. Sunstar is like, robots are better than humans, we should eliminate all robots because they are inferior, but also, our purpose as robots is to fight and kill each other as well. I guess I would say King's model...
Oh my god.
So
good.
Robot Masters are Tengu Man, Astro Man, Dynamo Man, Cold Man, Round Man, Pirate Man, Bird
What?
Man, and Magic Man. A couple of these are pretty fun.
What? What? Why not? Is it like a super diet home? Do you live in like a super diet home? Where everyone like super diets? More than any diet? My god, this is so good. My god. No, I get to eat whatever I want as long as I can cook it. My parents just haven't been grocery shopping, lol. Aww. Get to love bread. Got to love bread ASMR. Yeah, I should do that more often. I've thought about doing voice stuff. I don't know. I should probably start doing voice stuff at some point. Oh my god. Oh my fucking god. Alright, time to get to work. But I'm gonna try to work while still eating this bread. It's so good. I have no idea if I can do this though. Oh my god, this is so fucking good. Oh my fucking god. Holy shit. Oh my god. I'm so sorry to torture you like this, but like, my dad's homemade bread is literally like the best bread out of any bread. It's just so fucking good. Like, he's perfected it to a T. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. So good. Okay. Let's get started.
Funny. The story of Dynamo Man is that he used to be a children's crossing walk guard until King gave him like a power upgrade that made him too powerful, and it also might have driven him crazy, and he would shoot off like charges.
Oh my god.
And it was unsafe and scary, and so he can't be a crossing guard anymore.
It's been nice too, because I've been actually like losing weight lately.
In the Mega Man and Base,
it's really nice.
Database is like, why won't anyone play with me anymore? It's like sad. Cold Man literally was the refrigerator in Light Laboratories, and King like stole it and turned it into a robot master. In an ironic twist.
It's alright. Just leave your door open so I can steal the bread. Okay, I'll steal some for you.
Samples will now
I'll let you pull Les Mis.
And Burner Man. I think King made him, the wiki is not clear, but either way, King tricked him into thinking that if he doesn't burn down a
Oh, shit, I
forest
didn't.
every day,
It's on full
he will
screen.
die. That's his life. Like King told him there's a bomb in him, and if he doesn't burn down a forest every day, it's gonna go off. But you know, King's a good guy. He's got robot solidarity. Look, it was really important for the cause of robot solidarity that we burned down all those forests.
King's
okay?
crazy.
Since we've come to
King's
this
fucking
point
insane.
in the timeline of Mega Man, I see no reason not to pause for a moment and take a look at some of these CD.
Oh, you're gonna love this part.
And read some of the weirder ones. I'm sure most of these were not taken from any older documentation. These probably weren't the original intentions when they were created, but they are in a mainline Mega Man game, so they are canon, I guess. Here's a few that I thought were interesting. Nothing too surprising on Mega Man's card. Good point, sense of justice. Bad point, reckless behavior. He likes
You got light mode on? How do you... Wait,
Fascinating.
what?
Now, Roll, on the other hand...
What are you talking about? On, like, YouTube or on, like, Quip Studio? I don't think Quip Studio has a light mode, but
So I guess
also, I'm not logged in to that version of YouTube. That's not my account.
Mega Man. Not her. She's a filthy cow.
I have night mode on my YouTube account. Just like the OBS stream, I'm not.
Boss, but he is
It's weird.
unfortunately also a misery guts. I guess that means he's gloomy or something. He dislikes commercials for wigs. I guess he is bald. I guess he's kind of got like a dome head. I kind of see it. Sure, why not? Do commercials for wigs make him jealous? Why doesn't he just buy one? If he wants a wig, I don't get it. Heat Man's only good point, his only positive quality they could list for him is living. He's good at living. Good for him. Better than being bad at it, I guess. Snake Man's most positive trait is simply green.
What a relatable.
The thing that he likes is Toad
Just shut up.
But then, looking at Toad Man, his dislike is Snake Man.
Oh.
Poor guy. What did he do? I guess there's not much for Toad Man to like since he's even greener than Snake Man is. Speaking of one-sided robot friendships, Yamato Man's description says that he has great respect for Nightman.
Guys,
but,
he's still
Nightman
living.
says
I know.
about Yamato
He's
Man.
so good at it.
Windman's says
He's
that
coming a
he has
long way.
rivalry with Airman, but Airman's does not mention Windman. Turbo Man's dislike is Burst Man. Not really sure what his problem is, but Burst Man seems blissfully unaware. Dive Man dislikes Pirate Man, I guess because Pirate Man would rob him at sea? I don't know, Pirate Man's card doesn't say anything about Dive Man. Although it does say that he's a scoundrel, so maybe more people should dislike Pirate Man. And Stone Man's card says that Guts Man is his friend, and his quote is even, "Guts Man, let's go see a movie." Guts Man's card doesn't mention Stone Man, but, you know, Guts Man's really popular.
That's true.
Maybe he's just got a lot of friends. Pharaoh Man is a charismatic leader, but his downfall is that he's too nice to women.
Or,
It is tragic.
true.
Other than that, he's just such a cool guy. Windman's only fault is that he's bad with bicycles, which must just be a terribly crippling deficiency for a guy who can fly. Clown Man's info is pretty much what you'd expect, only he dislikes everything, apparently.
What?
Just, there's
That's
not
sad.
a damn thing in this world that this clown appreciates.
That's sad.
Quint, meanwhile, dislikes himself, which I guess makes sense because, you know, he's got Mega Man's strong sense of justice somewhere in there. He must recognize that he's become a villain, and he just can't stand it. The cognitive dissonance is just tearing him apart
Damn.
every damn day.
It's sad.
Frostman's good point...
Clown Man is so me. True.
His bad point is that he's stout. So, I mean, I guess he's big, but it's in the wrong way. He's fat. Big is good, but fat is bad. So, Frostman, you're fat. We don't like you, I guess.
Oh.
Like Frostman, Uranus's good point is that he's a bull, but his bad point is that he's beastie. So, I mean, I don't know what you want, database. Kind of a catch-22 there. Mercury is a based communist. His quote is everything belongs.
He's a
to me,
communist?
I'm
Fuck
sure,
yeah.
By which he means sees the means of production. By me, he must mean the proletariat, I'm sure. He means like the plural me, obviously.
Ace?
Megawater S's good point is that he's an immigrant, but his bad point is that he's got a funny accent. I mean, cut him a break, man. We love our foreign comrades. We love our open borders unless you talk weird and then go back where you came from.
Damn.
Anchor just dislikes foreigners, so I don't know, maybe he's the one that wrote Megawater S's card. When he was creating Anchor as the first Mega Man killer, Wily must have thought to himself, the only thing that can defeat a robot with that strong a sense of justice
It's a racist.
Dynamo Man, I might be reading this uncharitably, but I gotta say, listing him as liking to pump off and disliking intercourse, getting some incel vibes.
Yeah.
I guess ever since he got that upgrade that made him shoot lightning all the time, he's become an incel, and you know what? Understandable. Ground Man hates sand. It's coarse and rough, and it gets everywhere. And finally, probably the most infamous of these entries, Dr. Light. He likes the internet, but his bad point is that he's douchey. So in other words, he's just like you, the person watching this video.
True. True.
So naturally, the way the story plays out, you fight the Robot Masters, you find King's fortress, you beat King. If you are Base, Wily shows up and tells you, like, haha, good, nice job, Base. I was only pretending. Oh, wait, sorry. I should have mentioned King is rebelling against Wily. King is also rebelling against Wily, but Base feels no solidarity with him because Base is a lone wolf rebel, and he's like, oh, well, if we're both fighting against Wily, then I'm going to kill you because I'm going to fight against Wily better. King wants to work together, but Base doesn't want to, so he's like, oh, well, that's a shame. Before the final battle, Wily shows up, and he's like, King, you nerd. You thought you could get away with this? Brainwash. Now you're under my control again, turns him purple. Maybe a reference to the purple dark evil energy from Duo's game? I don't know. But you beat King, and Wily says, oh, I was only pretending to let King get away with rebelling against me. It was a test for you, Base, and you passed. But here, check this out. I've got plans for King Mark II. Isn't that cool? And Base is like, no. And Proto Man shows up, and he's like, no thanks, Wily, and he destroys the plans. So no King 2, I guess. When you beat King, it's like, well, the tower is coming down, the King castle is coming down. He's like, Mega Man, you got a teleporter, you got to teleport out here before it comes down. Don't worry, I'll follow you. And Mega Man teleports out, and then King is like, haha, I don't actually have a teleporter. I'm gonna die, but I'm glad he got away safely. But it's okay, because the final cutscene as Mega Man is you get a letter from King. King writes a letter to Mega Man. That's like, Dear Mega Man,
why isn't it small?
I was wrong to want to destroy humanity. I am going to change my ways. Thanks for fighting me. Thanks for being a cool guy with a strong sense of justice, as we all know you are. I'll see you around. So he was fine, actually. Okay, the next game is one that most people probably haven't played, but it was one that I was maybe the most excited to talk about. This was released the next year, only on the Wonder Swan, and of course only in Japan. I was able to play it thanks to a fan translated patched ROM version. It is called, well, it doesn't have an English title, but its Japanese title is Rokuman Ando Forute Mirai Kara no Chosen.
Okay, so I just had to work on this and that and that.
From the future. This game's weird.
So if I don't finish this by today, I'll just work on the backgrounds tomorrow. And I might edit this arm a bit. Because I hate it. Plus I really want to add some more detail to the line work.
Anywhere else, as far as I know. But whatever. They're in Symphony City. Mega Man and Base are. And
Symphony City!
Guys from the future, evil robots from the future, show up. They come through a time portal or something. They're called the Dimensions. And they're like, well, we're here to wreak havoc and fight robots. And I'm all out of havoc. No, they're not. They start fighting and causing chaos. The leader of this gang is this guy called Rockman Shadow. And he's like, hey, Mega Man, I'm like you but evil. I'm you but evil, and I'm from the future. I'm like your dark shadow, man. You fight the Dimensions. You fight these guys. They are oh man, I don't remember their names. They have wacky names. Dangan Man, Conro Man, Aircon Man, Komusu Man, Clock Men, that's men plural, there's 2 of them, Compass Man, who apparently is Rockman's friend, or sorry, Rockman Shadow's friend. He's like, yeah, I'm like second in command. I'm like this guy's right-hand man. Like, he's strong, but I'm almost as strong. And of course, and Rockman Shadow. So you fight them.
Oh, yeah.
You fight him, and you can play as Mega Man or Bass. So let me explain what Rockman Shadow is. I'm sure Capcom reached out to whatever company they contracted to make this game. They're like, hey, we want a Mega Man game on the Wonder Swan, and we want you to include Bass in it. We want you to make it about Mega Man and Bass, because Bass is our new secondary character. We're pushing him as a sort of new rival to Mega Man. So make it about them. And they probably said, you know, you can do whatever else you want. And this is what they chose to do. All right.
Is turned off. The subtool will not snap the rulers. Even when the snapping is turned on, figure tools will not snap.
Quint. Remember Quint? Remember when Wily from the present went to the future, conspired with his future self to get future Rock post Mega Man, kidnap him, brainwash him, and modify him into an evil version of himself and send him back to the past to be the boss of Rockman World 2? Well, Shadow first claims to be him, but then when you fight him and beat him, he tells you, no, I was actually lying. I'm not Quint. What I am is the prototype of Quint that was abandoned for the real thing. I guess Wily went to the future and met up with future Wily, and I guess together made Rockman Shadow in the future, decided he wasn't good enough, threw him away, but they used his schematics, or they used his design as the basis for modifying Mega Man into Quint, and then Quint goes back to the past, and this guy stays in the future. You know, in this world, Mega Man is gone because first he was deactivated as Mega Man and turned back into Rock, and then as Quint he went back to 20XX. And so in the future, but he was still the strongest guy around. He was stronger than anyone else because there was no Mega Man around to challenge him. So he just starts fighting and killing other robots, and he's the best at it, and he loves it, and he's just like, I'll just keep going, and he just kills everyone. And then there's no one left to fight in the future, and he's like, well, hey, I'm the strongest. I heard that back in the day Mega Man was the strongest, so I'm going to go back to the past and fight him too. And that's what he did. And he died. And now he's like, well, you've killed me, but I guess this is for the best, actually. There's an obvious thematic parallel here between Rockman Shadow and Bass. He's like, hey, Bass, you know, don't be like me. I've wasted my life in pointless conflict. I just killed everyone for the sake of killing because I didn't know what else to do with myself, and it was a waste, and I regret everything. So don't be like me. And Bass like, whatever, man. What do you know? So living just to fight and be strong? Does it ever work out for other robots? No, it never does. Those robots delude themselves into thinking it might. But it might work for me. I say that Bass didn't learn anything, but on the other hand, as I say, this was the last mainline Mega Man game, or just about, for 10 years, so maybe he chilled out after that, and he was like, dang, Rockman Shadow really gave me a lot to think about. I gotta go reconsider some things, and maybe that's why there was no more fighting for a decade. I gotta talk more about Rockman Shadow, and a lot of what I'm about to mention comes from a channel called Reploid Revo, who is a Mega Man YouTuber, and I watched a couple of his videos, and I learned.
Loaded with delicious details. The new green goddess Caprese.
Jesus.
Learned some interesting stuff. He had a couple of neat takes. He's the only Reploid YouTuber, which is good representation. Reploids need to see themselves represented in the media they consume.
Sure.
It's healthy. When I first learned getting sweaty. So when I first learned about Rockman Shadow and Quint, I thought I was such a little clever clogs. I was like, wait a minute. Wait a dang minute. That explains why there's no Mega Man in the future. oh my god, Mega Man is gone in the Mega Man X timeline because he was kidnapped by Wily and brought to the past to be Quint. That's what happened. He wasn't Ship of Theseus into X after all. He was time traveled away, back to the past. And I thought it was clever. Reploid Revo made a video talking about it, and I have to concede that he's probably right. That doesn't really make any sense, because I'd be like, sure, that would explain why Mega Man is gone, but it doesn't explain why Proto Man is not there, Roll is not there, or anyone else. It's probably an alternate timeline thing where, in coming back to the past, Rockman Shadow changed the timeline, and he came from an alternate timeline wherein there was no more conflict until he came around and then he destroyed everything. Whereas in our timeline, that doesn't happen, and, you know, the X series will eventually take place. Because, I mean, that Rockman Shadow was made 37 plus years in the future, and then who knows how long his world conquest took. So it's probably getting on to around 21 XDX in the time that Rockman Shadow comes from. And I mean, he's just a robot. He's not a Reploid. And it doesn't seem like he would be able to stand up against a Reploid in combat, although I guess technology might have advanced in other ways, so who really knows? I think probably we can assume that X would be stronger and able to beat Rockman Shadow if that were to be... if it were the same timeline. So I seriously doubt it. Another neat note that Reploid Revo pointed out about Rockman Shadow is that he has a, like, hand laser sword. He has, like, a beam saber. Like, just like me. Nobody else in the classic era has, like, a beam saber. Burner Man has something that kind of looks like one, but it's actually just like a big Bunsen burner with a long flame. It's not really like an energy sword, lightsaber, laser weapon. No, only people in 21X, DX, and onward have laser energy sword weapons, and this guy's from the future, and he has a laser sword energy weapon, and he's the only one in all these games. So I thought that is pretty cute. Pretty cute attention to detail right there. Gotta appreciate that. Right, Rockman Shadow was the prototype for Quint. Also, I forgot to assign Auto to Dr. Light right there. Oh, and you know, I forgot to say that Wily built bass, of course, and treble. I almost forgot one other game was released this same year. One that I was not able to find. It was called Rockman Gold Empire.
How is your art going? Are you still working on stuff today?
From what I read, that it is similar to Wily and Light's Rockboard That's Paradise, in that it's like a board game Monopoly sort of game. They made another one for some reason. I guess you can play as Mega Man, you can play as Bass, Proto Man, Duo, and apparently you can play as someone called the Mayor. The plot of the game is that Wily discovers a plan for quote-unquote gold transfer, which can transmute gold into pure energy and be combined to form the ultimate alloy. Bass steals part of the plan and shows Dr. Wily, who tries to stop him. Okay, so my theory about this, it's just what springs to mind when I read that. Bass has gold design elements on his body. Bass is made of basenium. I mean, the ultimate alloy, it's got to be basenium, right? He's turning this gold into basenium. There's got to be some relation there. It has to be. It has to be the case. This was also the year that same company that made Rockman Gold Empire released those other games whose names I can't say. I don't know how to read that. I didn't find that much information about them, but the names apparently mean like Rockman IQ Whirlwind, Rockman X Mathematics Whirlwind, and Rockman Dash Great Adventure to Save the World. The word for whirlwind might mean challenge, so it could be IQ Challenge, Mathematics Challenge, etc. So those two sound like brain teaser games. Rockman Dash Adventure to Save the World sounds like it could be interesting, but nothing against Taiwan, but I don't think, I don't know if it counts if it was released nowhere else. That doesn't feel fair to the rest of us. All right, I've been stalling long enough. It's time to get back to the real. Wait, no, not quite yet. Well, almost. The real is X4, but before that, It was released after, but it canonically takes place beforehand, and they're close enough, so I'll just mention it. Extreme 2 concerns something that is called the Erasure Incident. Basically, Reploids, remember, this is on the Game Boy, this is a handheld game. I choose to consider it canon. Actually, so do all the other games, because there are references to the Erasure Incident in other games, so this is definitely canon. Reploids all over the place start not dying, but basically going like comatose, catatonic, like they just fall over and like are still operational, but there's no soul. The soul, they're being erased. So that, like, this is the Erasure Incident. What's happening to these Reploids? Well, they track something to some island. On this island, they meet Gareth, who's this knight guy. And they're like, "Are you behind this incident?" And he's like, "Shut up. You should fight these other robots and leave me alone." And they say, "I guess we will." In regular Mega Man, there were some later games where you could collect bolts and buy stuff. Well, in this game, I think this is the first game to introduce this, you can pick up something called DNA souls. Mechanoids and Reploids you fight will drop DNA souls, and you pick them up and you buy stuff with them. And it turns out that Gareth and his boss, Burkana, have been doing erasure to steal Reploid's DNA souls to get powerful and make useful stuff out of them, because I guess DNA souls are just good and useful, and they're good, and you want them. So they've been stealing them, and that's not okay. And they brought back a bunch of Reploids also, using the power of DNA souls. I guess it can do that too. So you fight the Reploids, you fight Gareth, you fight Burkana. I read in an interview that the art guy behind this game, he said, like, yeah, this lion, Gareth was supposed to have a pet lion. The lion never made it into the game, but please consider the lion to be canon. Normally, I would not respect such a flagrant breach of the sacred contract between author and audience, but I will, just this once, give him a break and acknowledge that the lion is canon. So there he is. I don't remember what the lion's name. I don't know if he even had a name. Yeah, you just fight him, and then you fight him, and they're like, "By the way, Sigma's here too." And Sigma's like, "Haha, yes, I've been watching and I approve of the goings on." And I don't think Sigma even did anything. I don't recall them being mavericks in the sense, I mean, they're mavericks in that they are criminals. They are not maverick in the sense of they are not infected with the maverick virus. At least it is not clear that they are. I think they were just operating out of greed, and I don't know why Sigma is here. That's it. I just don't know. Did I mention that Iris is their navigator? Right. Navigator. This is a thing. Remember, I said in these games, Digger and Spotter. This guy goes out and does the fighting. This girl hangs out on the computer at home and tells him where to go. Well, this game, again, this game was released a little bit later, but it takes place canonically before the next X game. It introduces Iris. It sort of retroactively introduces her, because in the real world her first appearance was here in the next game, but they sort of went back and put her in this game, like kind of retroactively sort of establish her a little bit more. And she is X and Zero's navigator as they go through this island, and she is contacting them and telling them what's up and something buying stuff with DNA souls. And she's the navigator. Navigator. Remember, navigator. Now we're on to the real I would say X4 is where things... You know, I didn't like X4 as a kid. I think I played X, X2, and X3 on the SNES. And I'll tell you, I didn't really like the graphical style of X4. I didn't think that the increased, bigger Mega Man sprites and the smoother animations, I didn't think that they really looked that good. I didn't like the graphical overhaul that they gave the games when they moved to the PlayStation. And now that I've played the whole series, I still agree with that. I still think the games looked the best in the slightly lower resolution of the SNES. However, I have to appreciate X4 more because the games quickly get bad and also look much worse. They stay in this graphical style, but they just get sloppier and sloppier, the next two. Compared to those, like, I don't think I agree with the visual style change, but I do respect it in X4, not so much beyond that. Now, when I say that, I'm talking about the in-game graphics. This game famously has, much like X8, because as I say, they were released around the same time. Much like X8, this game has funny Saturday morning cartoon anime cutscenes.
Zero. What if I become one of the Mavericks?
Don't ask such a silly question. I'm breaking contact now.
Wait, Zero!
That are best known in the West for their horrible, horrible English voice acting. Again, they look fine and they sound absolutely horrifying.
What do you think you're doing?
It's not too late. Stop the coup now.
Never.
If that's your decision, prepare yourself.
It has the famous Zero scene. This can't be happening. There's no reason to go on. What am I fighting for? What am I fighting for?
No, this isn't happening. There's no reason for me to go on. What am I fighting for?
It's a classic. I love it. I appreciate it. So the presentation of this game leaves a lot to be desired. I would kind of argue that in spite of that, the story it's trying to tell is actually pretty good. Maybe one of the best ones in the series. It doesn't communicate it especially well, but what's there at its core, I think, was a good idea. In X4, there is a new force of Reploids. It's called the Repliforce.
We are the Repliforce. The most powerful
Uzumi in history! Yay!
X and Zero lead the Maverick Hunters. These are robot cops who stop robot criminals, more or less. But most specifically, they target Reploids that have been infected with the Sigma virus. The Magma virus and the Sigaric virus. The Sigma virus and the Maverick virus are basically one and the same at this point. Well, the Repliforce is an army. It's a standing military by Reploids for Reploids. The English manual for X4 says that Dr. Kane founded Repliforce, thought it would be a good idea. Dr. Kane is just full of terrible ideas for what would help the cause of Reploid equality. Anyway, this military force, it's just getting on, doing its thing, you know, just being cool, I guess. Until one day, there is an incident. A floating city called Sky Lagoon, which I guess there are floating cities in the X world now. That's fine. There are floating cities, and this one called Sky Lagoon comes crashing to the Earth, I think on top of another city, although I don't think that city is named. Anyway, so I guess the city crashes into another city, and as you imagine, it's horrifying. It's the worst thing that's ever happened, and Repliforce is blamed. People say, hey, the Repliforce army was there. They crashed the island. Why did they crash the island? And X or Zero, depending on who you're playing as, goes and says, hey, Repliforce, you are under suspicion of doing the worst terrorism ever. We're going to open an investigation into this matter. A more even-handed response than I would have. We want to investigate. Lay down your arms, surrender yourselves to our investigation so we can figure out what the heck you did. And Repliforce is like, just like in the real world, you know, when the cops' power is challenged, they immediately start rioting. They say, no, we refuse our honor. No, our honor as warriors. We'll never lay down our weapons, no matter how reasonable your request. We must always kill. We must always kill all the time because it's the only thing we were built for. If we're not killing, then what good are we? So no, we will not submit to your peaceful investigation. We don't care what sort of terrorism occurred. We don't want an investigation. We're going to fight you just because we don't know anything else. I hate Repliforce. I hate them so much. X is like, hey, listen, you could do that. But I mean, technically, if you do that, you will be defying the will of the human government, and you will be technically Mavericks, all of you. And they say, okay, whatever. Okay. Oh, so refusing to submit to an investigation when we're suspected of terrorism, then I guess we're Mavericks then. So waging full-scale war against humanity, that's all it takes to be Maverick? Well, then I guess call me a Maverick then. It's ridiculous. I've seen people defend Repliforce. Oh, but their honor. No, you don't understand. It's a matter of honor. It's despicable. The opening cutscene to the game is Sigma. He's hooded, so you totally can't tell that it's Sigma, but it's obviously Sigma. He sees the leader of the Repliforce, this guy, this giant, like 40-foot tall gold man called General. And he goes to General and he's like, hey, why do you work for humans? You know, the humans are trying to keep control of you. Why don't you fight against the humans for your own, you know, sake? Be self-determining. Sigma, remember, is all about Reploid supremacy. So he's trying to make humans are keeping you down. Repliforce should work for itself. He's trying to make a slightly more moderate argument to convince this the General to, you know, stop cooperating with humans. Basically, General says no, I don't want to betray the humans. And I guess this is supposed to paint him as a good guy. But to me, it's like, oh, okay, he wouldn't take up arms against humanity when nothing was at stake. But when there's any stakes at all, immediately, as soon as the chips are on the table, oh yeah, the guns come out. It's a full-scale coup, baby. Oh, but he's a good guy. Oh, he didn't want to. Oh, he had to. He had to for honor. He's honor as a warrior. The mere suggestion that Repliforce could be responsible for anything bad at all, that any individual member of Repliforce might be responsible for something bad. Well, I'm sorry. You've just made an enemy for life. I'm afraid you have forced my hand into a full-scale global conflict. My hands are tied. There's nothing I can do. This is the only way. And the worst part is, he's wrong, and there are Mavericks in Repliforce. Here, I'll draw it on the diagram. They are all technically Mavericks because Repliforce has defied the world government, defied the will of humans, and that makes you a Maverick. That's the definition of a Maverick. Not all of them are infected with the Sigma virus. Some of them are loyal Repliforce soldiers, as are these two, Colonel and Iris, who I'll get to in a minute. This isn't really important, but these two are also former Repliforce members in the next game, for whatever that's worth. These two are also siblings, Colonel and Iris. But yeah, anyway, 3 of the bosses in this game are infected with the Maverick virus, and you can tell because when you fight them, you know, in Mega Man you fight a boss at the end and the health bar appears and it goes well, each of them have a little symbol at the bottom, and in this game they all have the little Repliforce symbol, except for these 3. Magma Dragoon, Cyber Peacock, and Split Mushroom all have the little Sigma. They are infected. Oops. I was so excited to talk about which Repliforce Reploids were infected by the Maverick virus, I forgot to list the ones that weren't infected by the Maverick virus. Those are Web Spider, Storm Owl, Frost Walrus, Jet Stingray, and Soft Beast. Now, it is true that Magma Dragoon is not actually a part of Repliforce. He is actually a Maverick hunter, but he was infected with the Sigma virus. And he is actually the one who sabotaged Sky Lagoon and caused the fall. So the specific responsible party was not Repliforce. He was a Maverick hunter. Nevertheless, the Maverick hunters wanted to open an investigation into Repliforce, and had they done so, they would potentially have uncovered that there were Sigma operatives in Repliforce that probably were aiding with the operation. Would I say that Repliforce are the true villains? Absolutely. Worse than Sigma. When you think about it. Sigma's a force of nature. These were individuals making choices. Unforgivable choices. So anyway, the plot of the game concerns you going around fighting all these guys. They're bad. You gotta kill them. Retire them. Sometimes they use the word retire to mean kill a Reploid, but you retire them all. And then you fight Colonel. He's sort of like Zero's rival. You can play as X or Zero in the campaign, and they're mostly the same. If you are X, you do fight the Colonel, and then at the end, you fight the General. And then at the end, you fight Sigma, and after you beat Sigma, this Sigma's so hard. This Sigma's so goddamn hard. But I beat it fair and square, and I felt great. It was good. I really warmed. I thought this was when the series got bad. I used to think that. I don't think that anymore. I think that the decline starts. The decline starts at 5 and is well underway by 6. But you fight Sigma, and then after Sigma, you're on a space station of some kind. I guess I would assume this is the Repliforce base, not base like the character. I believe it's called Final Weapon. I guess it's like an orbital weapon. It might be like a big laser beam. It never actually gets operated, so we don't know what it does. But they're on this space station weapon, and the general, in the end, the general who you defeated, he shows up and he's like, oh no, Sigma's gonna fire the weapon at Earth and kill the humans, and I will stop it. General kind of sort of sacrifices himself. He like puts his giant gold body like in the barrel of the thing to absorb the blast. I guess he sort of does an Iron Giant at the end. And you know, that's nice of him, I suppose. Oh, if you're X, you also fight this guy, Double. During the game, Double is your operator. I think he's the only male operator ever. But he's your operator, the guy who messages you on your little communication device and tells you stuff. Halfway through the game, he reveals... Oh, it's keeping it a secret. Halfway through, he reveals he's a Sigma. Oops, he's a Sigma. He's a traitor, and it's a coup, and Repliforce is in on it. We got men on the inside. We got men in Repliforce. We're controlling everything, baby. And you kill him. That's X's campaign. If you're Zero, you fight Colonel. And Colonel is like Zero's rival, sort of. And Iris is like Zero's love interest. She's sort of his girlfriend. And Iris doesn't like when Colonel and Zero fight. She interrupts their fight at the beginning and is like, don't fight each other. I hate that. And they're like, okay, all right, we won't fight each other. But then, of course, there's the coup, and Zero has to fight Repliforce because he's a Maverick hunter and he works for the humans. And the Repliforce has gone full separatist. They have decided that while they're rebelling against the grave injustice of some suspicion that the terrorism that they had their army at the site of might have been involved, and can we look into this matter, please? The terrible injustice of that is also the perfect excuse to go full separatist coup. We will found our own Maverick ethno-state, I guess in space. But they're totally justified. It's morally gray. Nah, both sides are a little right, though. All right, I gotta calm down. Anyway, they've gone full separatist, and so Zero's gotta fight him on behalf of the humans. The second time, he kills him. He kills Colonel.
What the fuck?
It's a fight to the death. And then I believe instead of fighting the general, at the end, if you're Zero, you find Iris. And Iris is holding this orb, and she merges with the orb and gets this armor around her, and you gotta fight Iris. And Iris is the final boss, and you gotta kill her. And that's when she's lying on the ground, and she's like, I just dreamed of a world of only Reploids. And Zero's like, that's just a fantasy. And she said, I know, but I wanted to believe. Ugh. No, there's no need reason to go on. What am I fighting for? And that's how we get the iconic scene. This is another thing that it doesn't really explain in the games, but from additional context gathered elsewhere, it seems like the orb she is combining with is like Colonel's CPU core, because you killed him, and they're siblings, and so they're sort of like connected, sort of like Techno and MIDI were, and so she is like merging with his core CPU and becoming, I guess they were supposed to be one Reploid originally, but they were split into two. This is a bit extra canonical. I think some of this might come from manga adaptations, so you know, take it with a grain of salt. But it seems like that's what's going on, and that's what's happening. Anyway, Sigma's defeated. The general stops the final weapon from firing. The day is saved, other than the fact that an entire city fell on top of another city. Just like in my webcomic, Slime and Punishment. Just like in my video that's part of that webcomic, S to Revert. You can see it on this channel. I don't know, it just reminds me of that a little bit. I hadn't played X4 when I made that, so there's no connection. But, you know, I think it's remarkable when a city falls on top of another city. That doesn't happen every day. And yet it happened twice. It's weird that it happened twice. I almost moved on without mentioning one of the most important parts of X4, which are Zero's flashbacks. They kind of serve to establish what was already obvious, but they do it more and better. So there's flashbacks that Zero is having to when he was created. He remembers a mysterious figure who is obviously Wily telling him, I think he tells him, go kill Mega Man.
Now go. Destroy him. That's an order. But wait!
You know, he remembers Wily. He remembers being created. He remembers when he was found. Okay, this is interesting. He was found by Sigma. Well, the Maverick Hunters found him, and apparently the way he was discovered was someone found his secret base and the tube he was in, and when he woke up, he went on a rampage and he started killing Maverick Hunters. He was killing everyone, and no one was strong enough to stop him. And Sigma showed up, and Sigma was remember, the plot of X1 is that Sigma was the leader of the Maverick Hunters, and then he went Maverick and took most of the hunters with him. So Sigma showed up at this place where he heard this red Reploid was going on a rampage. So he goes in, fights this crazed Zero who is just on a rampage. In the middle of the fight, I think Zero is about to win, like he's on top of Sigma, and suddenly... a W flashes in his head crystal, and he has like a headache. He's like, and I think that distracts him for just a moment for Sigma. What's happening? For Sigma to turn the tables, and he punches him in his crystal, and the crystal breaks, and it deactivates Zero, and they take him away. And I guess after that, Zero was fixed. You know, he wasn't crazy after that anymore. So what this all means is that Sigma got the virus from Zero. Zero is actually Patient Zero. That's my first time saying that out loud. That can't be on purpose. That can't be an intentional. That's got to be a coincidence. Zero is Patient Zero for what would eventually become known as the Sigma virus. Sigma got it from Zero when he punched him in his W head crystal or something. Sigma would then go on. Sigma would go crazy or whatever. Sigma would become basically merge with the virus and become the virus and propagate throughout the Reploid species. And it came from Zero. At this point, I think it's a little unclear, and I'm not sure if it ever becomes entirely clear. I think what was going on, I think the consensus is Zero did not initially contain the virus. Wily just also made the virus, and the virus was also in the lab, and Zero got infected with it after he woke up. It might be the case that before, when he was going crazy, he might have only gotten infected with it at the moment that the W crystal flashed. It seems to be the case that he might still be infected with the virus. I believe this is what's going on. He's still got the virus in him. Actually, yes. This is what it says in the official website for the Zero collection. As in, later, they would have the Mega Man Zero games, and they would release an official collection of those games on, I think, the Switch. And they made an official website for that release, and there was a timeline written on there. And according to that timeline, Zero still contains the virus. It just has a different effect on him. It literally turns him good because he's evil. Like, other Reploids are good by default, and the virus turns them bad. Zero is evil by default. I think one developer somewhere said, he's already the baddest Robo. So when you're that bad and you get a virus that turns you even more bad, I'm not sure if it's like a multiplication thing where like a negative times a negative is a positive, so an evil robot that gets infected with an evil virus becomes good, or if it's like an addition integer overflow thing where he was already very evil, but the virus gave him like a plus a million to his evil, and he could only store evil values of up to a certain number of bits. And it integer overflowed him back to a good value. I'm not sure which of those it is, but something like that is going on. Zero's got the virus, but it makes him good, but Sigma got it from him, and Sigma became the virus, and everyone else got it from Zero. All right, I think I've explained it clearly enough at this point, but you get the picture. This is what we learn in the flashbacks in X4, although it's a little bit vague on some of these details, but that is what is being communicated. So let's just make a little note here that Zero sort of made Sigma what he became. I must confess to having made a major blunder in this lecture at this point. You see, many times before now, and certainly now at this point in the series, it has been made clear over and over again that Dr. Wily created Zero. And yet, at no point do I ever realize that I need to draw the line from Wily to 0. It would have been one of the most important lines, easily in the top 5 lines on this whole diagram to draw in this goddamn continuity. It's so critical, and yet I just completely spaced. I never remember to draw the line. There won't be. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I think probably I care more than anyone else does about this, but it bothers the heck out of me. So if it bothers you, just know that I'm right there with you. Please do not make fun of me. Please do not leave a cruel comment pointing out this fact in an emotionally abusive way down below. Thank you very much for your cooperation. And please, God have mercy on me and all of us. Thank you. And let us continue the lecture. I'm not actually sure what the best time to bring this next point up is. I guess I might as well do it now. I mentioned this before is a hologram light who appears in armor capsules that he left behind for X to upgrade himself with. In X1 through 3, it seems pretty clear that these are pre-recorded. Leia in R2-D2, help us Obi-Wan Kenobi, our only hope. It's a pre-recorded message hologram. At some point, I think around X4 or 5 or so, it starts to change. You can have conversations with this thing. Like, Zero talks to it and asks it questions about Wily. I think that in 5 or 6, I think. And it responds. So at some point, it starts to seem less like a pre-recorded message and more like some sort of AI. It's light. So in a manner of speaking, he's kind of still around. So I guess in sort of the same way that Surge's might be Wily, this hologram, in hindsight, I don't know why I made this one bigger than this guy. Surge's is really a very minor character. I just made him bigger because he's Wily, but like Surge's himself is really not that key to anything. I should have made this one bigger or this one smaller. Whatever. Oops. Next time, I guess. Once it becomes apparent that the light hologram is probably an AI, you start to ask questions like, does that explain why it was in places that it could not have possibly been placed in, like the capsules? There's one I remember in X2, one of the light capsules that X can find is on Wheelgator's like mobile platform. It's on like a big vehicle, and like, how did he put it there before he died? And I think the commonly accepted explanation is that, yeah, this light AI is probably controlling these capsules somehow and somehow teleporting them to where they need to be, which is maybe how there keep being new upgrade armors to find in every game, and how they keep appearing in wherever it is that X has to go. So the year after X4 was released, there was a game released called Super Adventure Rockman. I did not play this. I believe it is a bit of an alternate telling of the story of Mega Man 1, kind of. I know these original 6 Robot Masters are in it. I think maybe some other ones are in it too. I might have mentioned it before, but in it you go to an island and there's a mysterious alien crash-landed there, or not crash-landed, there's like an ancient evil thing called Ra Moon, and it's like the source of all evil in the world, and Wily wants to get control of it or something like that. I read an interview where Inafune said like he apologized for it. He said that some other team had developed it mostly, and then when they got their hands on it, they were like, "What is this? How do we fix it?" I guess it's like a sort of like a Dragon Quest sort of like choose your own adventure sort of game. There are like little mini shooter sections where you shoot at robots, and I think the outcomes of those might determine events of like future bits of the game. Sounds neat in concept, I guess, but I didn't play it, so whatever. Apparently they were making a Rockman X version, a Super Adventure Rockman X, but that never happened. Okay, the next game is X5, which is right here. Well, the events of X5 will define everything going forward. So, Dr. Kane is no longer leader of Repliforce. Not Repliforce. Repliforce, I believe, is gone. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Repliforce was disbanded. Dr. Kane is no longer the leader of the Maverick Hunters. He retired. He might have died. I don't know. They don't really mention it. but he's not around anymore. Instead, this new guy, Cygnus, not Sigma, Cygnus, I couldn't tell you anything about him. He's a totally useless character. He's just the leader of Repliforce, and that's literally all there is to say about him. You have a new navigator, is this lady, Alia, and she is your navigator, and this game makes her insufferable. Famously, this is the game, I believe, that inspired the Blue Mega Man, those are hammer jokes, because she will not shut up. She messages you like 16 times a level, and you have to listen to her insipid dialogue while she explains some nonsense that you don't need to hear. That's her. She gets a little better later. There's also Douglas, who is like, you buy stuff from him. I don't think you use DNA souls. I don't remember what you use for currency. Looking at him, I can't help but be basically certain that he's meant to resemble Otto. So he's sort of like the X equivalent of Otto. He does machines. So, the plot of this game. Sigma. Believe it or not, he's back. And he is spreading the virus. He's spreading the virus all over the place. He likes to infect people with his evil Maverick virus. He loves it. But that's not good enough. He's got an even more dastardly plan. He hires some guy. I don't think this guy is Maverick virus infected. I think he just pays this guy money, and he just does it for money. He pays this guy to spread a variant of the Sigma virus that is referred to as the colony virus. It's a particular type of, I think it's the Sigma virus, but it's a virus through a space colony, like a satellite orbiting the Earth, and it's like a, last game there was a sky city floating in the sky. This is a whole colony, which I assume is bigger, and it's floating in space, so it's even higher. So this is the space colony Eurasia, and he hires this guy Dynamo to spread a virus in the colony that will disrupt its systems and cause it to come careening down to Earth. And this is much worse than the Sky Lagoon crash. If this crash happens, we're talking global devastation. We're talking like an apocalyptic scenario if this thing crashes into Earth uninterrupted. So the Maverick Hunters are like, well, what are our options here? And they decide, okay, there's an old cannon. There's an old space cannon, a big cannon that can shoot a big beam or whatever into space. It is not operational, but if we collect some stuff, if we get some parts, get some equipment from around, we can restore it, we can make it operational again, we can blast the Eurasia colony out of the sky as it is coming down, which will reduce the impact and, make this only one of the worst things that ever happened. So the plot of X5 is baffling because the way it's set up, you have to go and fight these Mavericks. Oh god, these Mavericks. Okay, these guys, I hate these guys, and it's only partially their fault. Usually the Japanese names and the English names for the Mavericks are pretty similar. Sometimes they change them a little bit, but this time they completely changed them and gave them names based on Guns N' Roses, which is not I don't hate that in concept, but it makes them, they have a completely different naming convention than anyone else in the series, and it's annoying. I don't like it. In English, they're called Grizzly Slash, Duff McWhalen, Squid Adler, Izzy Glow, Dizzy Devilbat, The Skyver, Matrex, and Axel the Red. In Japanese, they're called Crescent Grizzly, Tidal Whale, Volt Kraken, Shining Firefly, Dark Necrobat, Spiral Pegasus, Burn Dino Rex, and Spike Rose Red. So those are much better, and that's what I'm gonna call them, even though I probably won't refer to them ever again. You go and you fight these guys, you fight through their stages, and the point of you doing that is to collect objects, parts for the cannon, and it's literally a random chance. It's like a die roll. And the die roll is, I think it's affected by which items you have. But even if you have all the parts you are supposed to have, it can still fail, and it can still succeed even if you get none of them. I think. But yeah, you get the parts, and then the game rolls a die, and they fire the cannon, and either it destroys the colony and breaks it apart into little pieces, or it basically doesn't destroy the colony, it misses. If it randomly decides that it does destroy the colony, then it's like, okay, progress to the end of the game. You don't have to do the other 4 stages if you don't want to. If it doesn't destroy the colony, then it's like, well, looks like we have plan B, and plan B is to send Zero in a space shuttle to, I guess, crash into the colony. They're sending Zero up in a ship to go to the colony, to stop it somehow, do something to it in the shuttle. I'm actually not sure what he's gonna do. Slash it with a sword? Whatever. They're gonna crash the shuttle into it. Zero's gotta pilot it. So, plan B is that. And just like the first time, if you do that, if you do plan B, again, the game rolls a die, and you might fail if you do. It might fail if you do everything right, and it might succeed if you do everything wrong. But you send Zero up to crash into Space Colony Eurasia to break it up, and either it does or it doesn't. There are different endings depending on whether either one of the plans worked or not. It does make a difference, but not really. If you destroy the colony by either of the methods, then okay. If you don't destroy the colony, then it crashes into Earth, and either way, the colony virus and the Earthbound Sigma virus merge together to become the Zero virus. That happens no matter what. By the way, in this game, sometimes there are little like clouds of the Sigma virus floating around that can get you, but they're like bad for X, but they're good for Zero. Like they power Zero up. Either way, the viruses merge and become the Zero virus. And either way, the colony crashes into Earth and causes massive devastation, and it's the worst thing that ever happened. It's literally like the game tells you like, oh, the devastation was not as bad as it could have been, or it doesn't tell you that. But either way, the result is catastrophic, and either way, the virus merges into the Zero virus. If either mission is successful and the devastation is not as bad as it could have been, then Zero stays good. If that's not the case and both scenarios fail, Zero goes Maverick. But either way, you fight Zero in the end before the final battle. It's just in one scenario, you fight him because he's evil, and you get a slightly different cutscene. It's not like a cutscene. It's like a still image cutscene of Zero looking evil. And if he doesn't go Maverick, then you get a different cutscene of Zero not looking evil. But either way, you fight him. If he's not evil, you just fight him because, like, you gotta come back to base, Zero. It's too dangerous. And he's like, no, I won't come back to base. I must complete my mission. And then you're like, well, I'll fight you to make you come back to base. And that's why you fight if he's not evil. So those are the stakes. And they don't make any sense. Either way, the Zero virus is like the Sigma virus, but it looks like Zero, but it basically does the same thing gameplay-wise, except its presence somehow opens a portal to a digital world. Digimon, digital monster. It somehow opens a portal to something called Zero Space. And the final battles of the game takes place in this cyber realm called Zero Space. And that's it. That's just what happens, and I don't know. Sigma's there. I think it's in Zero Space still, because the battle takes place in Zero Space. You fight Sigma. Sigma's there. This is after you fight Zero. Sigma just shows up. Do you even fight Sigma? Yeah, you gotta fight Sigma, but when? There's the one where he's like a massive like head with like slithering tendrils coming out of him. They call him Slime Sigma. You fight Sigma.
Sigma?
After the battle with Zero. And
Slimka?
you're tired or whatever from the battle with Zero, and so Sigma just shows up at the end, and he's like, haha, my plan worked, the colony crashed, the Zero virus was a success, it awakened Zero's true self, which I guess was the self that was him when he woke up in the lab and was killing everybody, but I thought that was before he got infected with the virus, so I don't know why a new virus would make him revert to that personality. I am unclear on this plot point. Regrettably, I can't provide any further elaboration on it for you. But that's what he says. He says the virus awakens Zero's true nature. Zero's true nature is that of a bad guy. He's evil. The virus brought that out of him. And he's super powerful. And you had to fight him. And now you're tired from the battle. And so, battle me now. X.
Hey, Furby, how's it going, my dude?
And then
You
at
just
the
came
end,
in time
he
for me to
fixes
take
it.
my 15-minute
Then he's
break,
like, "Oh,
and next we're
little
gonna be
alive on the
drawing
ground, little alive on the ground,
a
and
thumbnail.
messed up
How's your day today?
like shoots with a laser, and,
Doing good?
X goes to like pick up Zero's body. Zero's body is all crushed up and messed up. Sigma shoots the laser at X, and I think Zero is in front of it, or he shoots it through Zero's body, and it goes through X as well, and X is mortally wounded. Sigma shoots him off guard with his blast. He mortally wounds him, and Zero is crushed up and dying, and Zero is like, with the last of his strength, he sees this happen. He's like, "Dang it, Sigma, you killed X. How could you?" And blows what's left of his little head up. And I guess we're supposed to believe that Sigma is dead after this. So Zero is lying there dying, and he's like, "Dang, I can't believe X just died. That sucks." It's probably good that I'm gonna die though. My virus has like messed everything up, and it's probably better for me to just be gone from this world.
Yeah.
Bye. He remembers Iris. Iris, that beloved character from one game at this point. It was introduced and killed off in the space of a couple hours. But she had a deep, profound effect on him, having to kill his lover. He's never quite the same after that, and now he's dying, and he dies. And X is also dying.
Oh my god.
Zero just died.
Let's see, what can I
Now I'm
do
gonna die.
while
And
waiting?
then a ghost.
I'm gonna check my Twitters and
A
Discords.
mysterious blue ghost who we only see his feet, but it's this guy. Dr. Light's cyber self AI suddenly manifests and is
So, do you have like a Furby OC? Is that what your OC is?
I'm gonna fix you up. I'm gonna solve these problems. Don't even worry about it. X is unconscious. He doesn't remember this. So either way, Dr. Light heals X and saves him. If Zero was quote unquote awakened by the Zero virus, as in if the colony crash prevention measures failed and Zero went Maverick because of the Zero virus at the end, then Dr. Light also erases X's memory of Zero. And in fact, he puts some sort of lock on X's memory that prevents him from ever learning anything about
Who's
Zero at all.
Digimortal?
In the other case, he doesn't do that. If Zero stayed good, X remembering is the canon ending. The canon ending is that Zero did not go Maverick due to the Zero virus.
Also, Furby, if you're watching, you willing to
And
give
that
the
was
stream a
wherein
like
the
and
Eurasia
subscribe
colony prevention
real quick
was
before you head out?
successful in that it prevented the absolute worst case scenario from happening. But remember, either way, it still devastates the planet. Okay, so Zero's dead. In the good ending, X is like, "Oh man, that was messed up what happened, but I remember my friend Zero, the cool badass, and now I've got his sword. He's got Zero's Z-Saber, and there's a dramatic shot of him like, I'm going to be more like Zero from now on. I'm going to carry forward his strength and spirit in my Maverick hunting duties. I am resolved to make him proud. Now I'm X with the sword." So that's pretty cool. In the non-canon bad ending,
Jesus. Oh god, I'm so tired.
other Maverick hunters are just talking about it. They're like, "Can you believe Commander X doesn't remember Zero? Isn't that messed up?" And X is like, "What are you talking about? What the heck are you saying? This is nonsense. I don't understand." And they're like, "Okay, X, let's change the subject. Hey, what do you want to be in the world? What are your dreams, X?" And X says, "I think I would like to create
I really want to
a
get...
place where humans and Reploids
I
live
really
in harmony."
really
Very interesting.
want to get a crane, not just for my microphone, but also for my camera.
But I think
So I could, like, record
you
myself,
assume that even asked the same question, he would
drawing
give the same
my...
answer, even in the good
in
ending.
my sketchbook.
You'll remember that the master system,
Because I think that would be really fun. Because that's how I've been wanting to, like, doodle more often as of late.
but it's also on this
So I can just, like, get myself to, like, make this stuff a lot
the
easier.
Japanese word used in both of these cases is simply the word for heaven. So it's just called heaven, and he just says, "I want to."
Yeah, I think that'd be really,
This is
really
definitely
fun.
meant to
be honest.
a reference to this. And these games both released in the same year. This has to be intentional. However, I find it a little weird because all he describes Elysium
My
as
pen.
in
Oh, there it
Empire
is.
is just a place where
God, I'm
humans
gonna have to
and
buy a new
humans
pen soon.
live together in harmony.
I've been, like, working on this stuff a
Describe
lot lately,
Elysium
but...
seems like
Oh no.
what Elysium Elysium was like when there were more pure humans living on it, before the Master was the only one. It seems like what Elysium was a place where humans lived in this artificially created paradise where all their needs were taken care of and they were immortal. And the Reploids, their computer servitors, just sort of waited on them hand and foot and existed to serve them. So I don't know if that really sounds exactly like what he's describing. What he's describing, a place where humans and Reploids live together in peace, sounds a little more like something that happens around here. But we'll get to that when we get here. Anyway, that's X5. In the next year was X6, but before I talk about X6, there was also another game that came
Too
out
nice to woman.
that was called Rockman Strategy. And again, I was not able to play this one.
Man,
This was
I really like drawing. I'm really excited to finish this
and
one,
it's too
actually.
bad because it's
The line art on
that
this is
I-
absolutely
it
shit.
used to be a
The
really
line art
good
is on this is fucking awful, but that's because it's like the undertone version.
grid-based RPG.
You know what? Fuck it. I'm not
A
gonna.
lot of Rockman Strategy involves something crashes
Gonna
into
doodle
Earth
for a bit.
and starts causing plants to go haywire.
I was gonna like look
Rockman
up Mega Man
claims
references because I thought it would be kind of fun to
working
draw
with
Mega Man.
some Zodiac robots. These are some more robots from space, kind of like
I don't
Star
think
Droids. But
Mega
these
Man
ones are based on the
X.
constel-
Yeah.
Yeah, the
No, he
constellation.
has
These
like
ones are
those light
Aries,
blue,
Leo,
that light blue
etc.
top thing on
And I
his
guess
head,
in
like the mohawk
In
thing.
the end, they were here on Earth to learn because their own homeworld was
But
the ecology was messed up, and so they came to
yeah,
Earth.
it has it more
to
so
learn
like
plants, and light teaches them how to plant
Hmm.
seeds. And
I always
grow.
like that.
There's a character, sort of a side character in this game that's never seen anyone else. He's wearing like I don't know what you'd call it. He's wearing like a sort of traditional
God,
Chinese,
I'm way
like,
overdoing this.
tunic and hat sort of thing. Fan. His name is Fan, and also these space droids are led by Apollo and Luna, who are like the sun and the moon. Yep, that's pretty much all I can tell you about that game. It is a tactical RPG with very janky looking pseudo 3D pre-rendered sprites. Looks neat, but also seems to be impossible to play in English, so that's too bad. But it's kind of a blessing, because I'm sure it's not important to canon, and also those kinds of games take so long to play. I'm sure it would have taken me ages. I gotta use this thing more. X6 takes place, I think it's 3 months after the events of X5, and remember, the canonical ending of X5 is the colony crash was sort of mitigated, but nevertheless disastrous. Zero is dead.
Let's see.
and
What
X
should I work
has
on
the
next?
sword. So X does have the Z saber.
Okay, I gotta prepare for working on this.
In this
Green.
one, he can use it right out the gate. Right out the gate, I say. Well, guess what? The villain of this game is another Reploid scientist, kind of like Dr. Doppler. His name is Gate. He goes to the crash site of the Eurasia, and he finds pieces.
Actually,
of
don't
Zero,
know. I think
Zero's body, and he
I
studies
think-
them. And he is able.
maybe.
Well, you don't find this out right away. This is revealed
I think
later.
that's how it
He
works.
finds pieces of Zero.
I just realized
and
Proto Man's helmet might actually be
later,
very
seemingly
different than
unrelated, mysteriously, a weird
Is it?
ghostly apparition, a
Oh,
strange
no.
presence called the Zero Nightmare that looks just like Zero, but it's purple and green. So it looks.
Got to look up
this purple and green Zero Nightmare
what,
causing trouble.
What
Also,
Proto
the
Man looks like
Nightmare
sometime.
virus on the loose, which is bad. This guy, Isaac.
I feel like anyone could draw Mega Man from memory.
Like a politician or something.
Honestly,
He has
like
a
he's
public
a
speech
very,
that's like,
very
everyone,
simplified design.
First of all, we got to band together and figure out what's going on with the Nightmare virus. Join our team of Nightmare investigators. We're going to find out what's going on. And also, it was led by this guy, IMAX, who is...
Nope. Okay. What the fuck is going on? Oh no. Okay. I'm gonna play some music on my end. Fuck, dude, what the fuck is going on? My internet down? Am I still recording? Oh, I know I'm still recording, but am I still streaming? Yeah, I'm still streaming. Come on, Ben. Jesus Christ. Don't die on me. Don't do this to me. Now I'll have to entertain people on stream. I brought you here so I wouldn't have to entertain anyone. Oh no. That's the whole point of video content creators nowadays, so that us streamers don't have to do anything. That's your purpose. That's your literal purpose in life. What the fuck? Oh god. That's really bad. This is fucked up. That's just fucked up. Alright, well, I might as well keep going. Am I still live? That's really bad. Oh god. Okay, so it is still up. Fuck. No. What am I gonna play in the background now while I draw? Oh no, now my computer's fucking frizzing up. No. No. I hate this so much. Ugh. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Come on, Ben, don't do this to me, Ben. Don't do this, Ben. 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 This is bad, Ben. This is a bad move. You don't want to cross me, Ben. Come on, Ben. Don't make me No. I'm supposed to almost be done. Supposed to almost be done. The whole point of this. The whole point. Ugh. Come on. What's the internet I'm connected to? Did I just exit out of this? Maybe if I exit out of it and interact with it again. Make it work. Something. Yeah, like the one downside to streaming live is while doing all this art live is I have to like also maintain the stream while also like drawing the whole time. Oh no. No. Okay, I guess I'll just Where are you? Okay. I have a backup for myself when I'm just wanting to listen to stuff. So, whatever. I guess. I have like a Bomberman video I'm watching anyway, so. Jesus Christ. So fucking annoying. So fucking annoying, dude. Holy shit. Jesus fucking Christ. Where is it? Where's Bomberman? Bomber Boy. There you are. Okay. Unironically right now, my headset is more listenable than ever while having another headset on top of it. Maybe I should have done this sooner. It's a screen, horizontal. Wait, interact. I really want this. Come on. No. Ben died. Ben just died. What the fuck happened, Ben? Ben, what happened to you?
Hi,
But-
Max,
Yes?
who is
Oh, thank God.
big. Also, the Maverick Hunters are bad.
Oh, thank God. I don't want to be entertaining anymore.
And
Oh, thank God. I don't want to be entertaining. Oh, thank God. Holy shit.
Is Zero. He's a Maverick Hunter, and that's bad. They are bad. Don't trust them. We will solve this problem. Thanks for listening. Subscribe to my podcast. All right, they do that. They form a team.
Wait,
to
oh
go
crap. It's not
investigate.
full
So
screen.
you, X, are like, well, I don't trust those guys. They don't seem to like me very much. So I'm going to go and investigate myself. So you go to all the same places where these nightmare investigators go to. You don't go there specifically to attack them, but when you find them all, they all attack you. They all insist on fighting you. I'm not sure if you would call them Mavericks this time, because every time you beat one, you get a funny sort of solid like post. Oh, the boss died. Well, let me tell you their tragic backstory, sort of thing from Alia. She tells you all about it. Oh God, what are they called? Commander Yamask?
Ya boy. Commander, ya boy.
Ground Scaravich, Blaze Heatnix, Blizzard Wolfang, Rainy Turtleoid, Metal Shark Player? Why is he called that? Shield Sheldon, and Infinity Mijinian. So these are particularly wacky. I will point out that Gate has this, most Reploids, lots of Reploids have a little crystal on their head. Gate has a little diamond on his head, and all of these guys also have little
Okay,
diamonds on
so
their
what I'm gonna
head.
do
One thing
next
about
now
it
is I'm gonna be
think
working on
all of them or most
making
of
this
them
table
might have been made
better
by
in
Gate.
perspective.
I'm really going to summarize here a lot.
So
but,
yeah,
I
that's
guess
my
the
next
gist
goal,
of it is
to try to
Alia
work on that.
explains she and Gate were scientists together. They used to work together, but Gate was a loose cannon. Gate wanted to create superior Reploids. Gate wanted to study the data of X and Zero to learn what makes them superior, so that he could understand them and create Reploids of similar superiority. But he was a loose cannon. He was a loose cannon, and he couldn't be controlled, so he had to go outside the system. But he made these guys,
Okay.
or most
The
of them
goal is
anyway,
cruel.
and he considered them to be superior.
What the fuck
to
is that?
Reploids.
Maximum
But then
cruelty.
all
No!
of them
Stop
all
it!
have some tragic
Sanderhall.
backstory
Before they argue
wherein
this
Get the
they
fuck
were
up,
all-
Sanderhall.
They were
For gay
all,
people
like,
back in the
Sanderhall?
90s,
No.
Other people
They
who
argued
were
that gay-
scared of their power. or-
Xanderhall. No. No politics. No politics on these streams. We never get political on this stream. We only ever get political, like, maybe we might ever sort of on a tiny scale ever get political on, like, the podcast we're doing, the suppository podcast, and the doodle stream. Okay, that's the only time we maybe get political. No politics will ever get mentioned here, except for maybe me like bitching about healthcare because I can't get like vocal feminization surgery without like getting kicked out, or like without having to spend like $1 billion. I can get everything else in like Oregon, but except for that, or it's like the stuff I want to get. I don't know. I was just ranty about that, but yeah, we're not talking about anything right now. I just want to listen to Mega Man lore from Ben Saint. I think it's pretty good video. It's really good video. It's really good video, and it's really helpful. I like playing it in the background while I draw, and I think this has been really nice for my streams, for myself at least. So yeah, I want to keep going. Okay, I'm gonna press play.
They were scared of Gate or something, or they were killed in some way. Most of them were killed. I think the idea is that all of them were killed and they were brought back by Gate. which is illegal.
God damn it.
It's like illegal to bring back a dead Reploid. I think it's established in this game. I'm not sure if anyone ever really goes into it. I guess it can be done, and indeed, I mean, in every game we've seen the final boss rush of all the Mavericks where you fight them again, and like there they are. Like, are they just replicas, or have they been brought to life? It's often not remarked upon, so you may never know. But in this game, Gate, I guess, made them. And I guess in most cases they died in some way and brought them back. Usually they either had some kind of like encounter with Gate, or Gate did something for them that made them super loyal to him, and then they died protecting him, or like they killed themselves so as not to bring shame to him. This is the sort of thing you get with these guys. A couple of these guys, I believe it was Ground Scaravich and Blizzard Wolfang, Alia killed. Blizzard Wolfgang, I don't remember why he was betrayed, but some Reploids decided he had to die, and so they tricked Alia into throwing him into the sea where he drowned. Ground Scaravich went into the chamber where they found X, like the one that Dr. Kane found X in, starting the whole Maverick War by starting the race of Mavericks. And Alia found him going in there, and I guess he was looking for treasure. He was a treasure hunter, and she had to kill him immediately, had to execute him and retire him there on the spot for the crime of trespassing into this place. So that's serious business, I guess. Yeah, these guys all serve Gate. And of course, it should come as no surprise that the Nightmare virus was also made by Gate, and Hymax was also made by Gate, but they were made using that piece of Zero that Gate found at the Eurasia crash site. Yeah, there we go. They're both based on Zero. Also, I think Gate went insane. I think he maybe got infected with the Zero virus. He was always a loose cannon, don't forget that. But he seems to go a little crazy and glows red and his eyes glow red after he finds the piece of Zero's body. So I assume what this means is that he is infected by the Zero virus, kind of in the way that Sigma was, I think. I don't believe he is infected with the specific Sigma strain of the virus, because it seems to come directly from Zero. The Nightmare virus is a virus that is so powerful, has so much energy in it or something, that it can manifest in the real world. These things are pieces of the virus, like sentient bits of the virus that like fly around in the real world, and they grab Reploids, like helpless Reploids that you have to rescue, and they like alter their DNA. Like the virus morphs them, it turns them into like slightly monstrous versions of themselves. It's really no joke. It's the worst virus yet. It's worse than the Sigma virus because it I mean, at least the Sigma virus just changes your personality and infects your mind. This like mutates you as well. Changes your DNA. The Sigma virus doesn't change your DNA. It just alters your cognitive programming or whatever. I feel like pointing out at this point that last game there was the Zero Space, which was some kind of Zero themed cyber realm that you could go into. In X4 there was this guy, Cyber Peacock. He lived inside the network. You go inside the computer to fight him. He's Data. In the same way, you know, the whole plot of Extreme takes place inside the computer. Going into the computer and being in data form, this is a thing that will become more and more important going forward. Cyberspace is basically a alternate dimension. That's the gist. That's what I'm getting at. It will become more relevant later. A Reploid can enter cyberspace, and inside
God, where is it?
or inside the computer, inside the mainframe, whatever, they are themselves because their DNA data is the same. It's their DNA, their DNA soul is what it's called. It's the blueprint for their body and their personality in the real world. And because it is data, it makes them inside of a computer, inside cyberspace. Their cyber projection is the same because
I'm
it's based
just
on the same DNA data.
is it?
I'm just setting this up because it will become relevant later. Couple of things that I want to mention that I think I glossed over or missed. One, I realized that I completely goofed and forgot to mention the most important thing about ISOC from X6, which is that he, much like Surges, seems to have too much knowledge about Zero. He seems really interested in Zero. He sort of implies that he...
Sorry,
knows
right now I'm
things
looking
about
for a
him.
reference
And
from my
at
buddy.
the end of the game...
This is
at
going to
the
be
end of
really
the game,
important for
you find
determining.
Isoc, and he, Alia, says that it reminds her of the Erasure incident, the one from X2, when Reploids started appearing. Reploids started to sort of drop comatose because their DNA souls had been removed. Well, they find Isoc in a similar catatonic state. So the implication is Isoc, like Surgis, is Wily, or is somehow connected to Wily, or maybe is Surgis, and he has somehow soul hopped out of Isoc into some other body. And,
Okay, sweet.
Looking at them, I can't help but notice the shared design element of the eyes. They both have the same kind of red eyes and the big red circle, which looks a little bit like the Reaverbot eye. I don't know if I should read any more into that or not. Sometimes a big red circle is just a big red circle. I mean, I guess if I wanted to go crazy speculate, I mean, Sigma also has a red circular jewel on his head, but it doesn't have like an iris.
Okay, so it's not like anything too crazy.
Suddenly, I'm not sure if it's 5 or 6. In one of those
Jesus
games at
Christ,
the
my
end,
brain.
when you fight Sigma, he throws out a line about how he met an old man, or he talked to an old man.
No,
And
I'll
it
get to
sounds
that when
like
I get
he's
to it.
talking about Wily, like he met Wily. I think it might be X5, but I don't know if there's any greater significance to it other than just yet another out of nowhere reference that Sigma knows Wily. Sigma is
Why am I
aware of
doing
stuff.
this?
Remember, Sigma is...
I guess
one of
I'm
the
trying to just like
characters
make
who
it look
refers
as good as
to
possible
X as Mega Man
overall,
X.
and doing this will
Knows
help a lot with
things
it. That's
about
true.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went back and checked. It's in X5. Sigma tells Zero that there's an old man who knows him, and that it was on this old man's advice that Sigma crashed the colony and created the Zero virus, and that this old man says Zero is the strongest, and yada yada yada. And Sigma tells X that this old man was once a rival of his and hates him, and also that he is the one that made Sigma's current body. So I guess in between being Surges in X2 and being Isoc in X6, Wily is somewhere, and Sigma, he says he has recently become his partner, so he didn't meet him before, but he met him now, and I don't know why he's an old man. I don't know. This doesn't make any fucking sense to me. I don't get it, but that's what the script says. I guess now that I think about it, this conversation and this battle with Sigma does take place in Zero Space, which is kind of like a cyber realm. So it's not the real world, and maybe, I don't know, maybe Wily...
Okay, I got an idea.
Consciousness is floating around in cyberspace, and that's why Sigma met him, and he looked like an old man. Wild guess. I have no idea if that's right, but it kind of makes sense. Maybe Wily has become a cyber ghost, kind of like Light did. Yeah, that's probably what happened. Yeah, sure. Why not? Yeah, I jumped the gun, because there was more to say about 6. You fight Gate at the end. You find him, and you kill him. And he is, Alia sees you carrying his body, and she's like, oh, my old partner, this is what you get for being evil. Alia says that she will try to develop a program or something. She'll develop something that is resistant to all viruses. Some sort of perfect cure for viruses. Something to make the Maverick virus obsolete. She says that is her goal. And she says that was Gate's goal as well. I'm just making that clear because I will reference it in a moment. Also, remember, I said this before, but I'll reiterate that the Nightmare virus that was the problem in X6 is a virus so powerful that it can that it is a computer program that can manifest itself in the real world, and it can rewrite Reploid's DNA. These are important. Okay, so the next year was the year that Rockman EXE, or Mega Man Battle Network as it was known in English, started, and that is a whole side series that I'm not going to get into because it exists in its own timeline. I know the story of the first game. The first game story is that you're a kid in the world, and in this world, Everyone's
Where
got
is
like a
it?
little
Oh my god.
computer program AI helper that like helps them interface with
Where is it?
computers that
Fuck.
basically control everything.
No.
And
No.
your little computer buddy is called Megaman.exe, and he.
No, I don't. I'm overthinking this. I'm overthinking it.
You are the son of a Dr. Hikari, which, if you don't know, Dr. Hikari.
The hand
is
interacts
Japanese
with
for
side
light.
hair and I.
In this world, your dad, Dr. Hikari, is actually the son of the Dr. Thomas Hikari, Thomas Light. There's a whole side. I don't want to get too far into it. But Dr. Wily is also there, or I think he's called Master Wily or Mr. Wily. But Wily is there. He's running basically like a terrorist organization. He hates the lights. I think he says that like your grandpa, something about like funding for his programs over mine, like his research into data, management or whatever, like AI systems was favored over whatever I was studying at the time. And he has a grudge over it because this world's Dr. Thomas Light's research into AIs led to the creation of net navies. These are the AI programs like Megaman.exe that you interface with technology with. The gameplay mostly takes place in cyberspace as Mega Man, where you do like strategy-based elemental card battles. I don't know how to play.
Oh wait, I'm an idiot. Oh my god, I forgot.
This world is an alternate timeline of the Mega Man world, in a world where Dr. Light went into network AI as a field of research as opposed to robotics. I wonder, because in this world, this is just my theory, but because in this world, Dr. Thomas Light, or Dr. Hikari, I wonder if maybe he immigrated to Japan and he changed his name, because in Mega Man 8, when you're selecting levels, it shows the location on a globe, and it places the location of Dr. Light's lab in America. So by that game's standard, at least, Dr. Light and Mega Man are American, or at least they live in America. Maybe he would have immigrated to Japan and maybe changed his name from Light to Hikari.
Is it?
That's why his son's
Oh
name is
yeah.
Dr. Hikari. I don't know, but I wonder if the difference in the timeline was that Dr. Light had a kid, had a son, because my read on Dr. Light is that he's an old man who never had children, and so in his old age he made first Proto Man, and then Proto Man ran away, and then Rock and Roll, he made them, and they're like his kids. So I wonder if, in this other timeline, Dr. Light has a son. I don't remember what the son's first name is, but I wonder if that's the divergence point. That's my theory anyway. But I don't want to I won't go any further into it than that, because it is a different canon. So I won't be discussing it anymore. Moving on. The next year, however, there began another sequel series. My personal favorite, the one that I played when I was in middle school or so, Mega Man Zero, which, I forgot to mention the well-known fact among Mega Man aficionados that X5 was meant to be the last game, or at least Inafune wanted it to be the last game and thought it would be the last game, and Capcom basically just started making 6 without telling him, and then eventually he found out about it, and he was like, oh, darn. When Zero dies at the end of 5, he's kind of supposed to be dead, not necessarily forever, but he's kind of supposed to be, like, dead. That's sort of the end of his story in X, or it was. But then I think they quickly made some changes, and so then, I didn't mention this, but it's very funny, in X6, halfway through the game, X finds Zero, and he's just like, Zero, I thought you died. And Zero is like, nah, sorry, I was actually just hiding. I just hid. I hid myself while I repaired myself. And now I'm back, and it's good. You've got a Z-Saber. I've still got my Z-Saber, and I see no problem with that. Let's just continue on as though nothing changed, and that's what they do. Yeah, he was just hiding. He was just hiding. So at the end of X6, I think in a post-ending scene, you do see Zero.
Okay, fine. I'll take my 5-minute break. Fuck.
At the end of X5, 5, he says, it's probably good that I don't die, because my existence in this world has only really caused problems due to my virus stuff. But then he comes back, so at the end of X6, he says, like, okay, hey, laboratory man, please seal me away in a tube and do diagnostic research on me. Seal me away for 100 years. And maybe in 100 years,
Oh, God.
happen and the situation would have improved.
Oh, my
Seal me
fucking
away and
God.
Study me. I shouldn't be allowed to exist in this world, man. I'm too dangerous. Actually, I mean, the scene at the end of X6, it might happen later. It might be implied to you kind of have to read it like this must be something that happens not now after the events of 6, but at some point later, because as you can see, there are 2 more X games after this. I don't like them, and I think there are valid arguments to be made that maybe you should consider these 2 to be a separate game. I don't think that's not the official line, but it's kind of what I want to say, and I think there's a strong case to be made. I think it makes a little more sense, but I will get to those eventually. But for the moment, yeah, just know 5 was meant to be the end. 6 ended up being the actual sort of end, at least for 0. And so the sequel series, Mega Man 0, Rockman 0, picks up 100 years later. Like at the end of X6, he says, I'm sealing myself away in a tube. 100 years later, Zero wakes up in a laboratory. And that's what happens. So 100 years in the future, in the year 22XDX, Zero is a legend. He is a mythological figure. I think people don't even necessarily think he existed. This lady, Ciel, is a human scientist, and she comes with a bunch of soldiers. They are being chased by some robots. They're being chased by some Reploid soldiers. She's being chased by some blue guys, and she comes into this laboratory where Zero is there unconscious being studied, and she's like, well, we gotta wake her up. Why did I say her? She's like, we gotta wake him up. But she doesn't know how, and she has a little fairy. There's a little cyber fairy creature with her, and this thing's name is Passy, and it's like, there's no time. I have to do it. I gotta do it. I gotta sacrifice myself to wake him up. And she doesn't. Passy sacrifices herself, and somehow this wakes Zero up. He had no arms. He was lying there, hanging there, armless, taken apart. But Passy's sacrifice somehow rejuvenates and restores and revives him, and there is a reason for that. But he wakes up and he's like, hey, what the heck? Who am I? And Ciel is like, I'm pretty sure you're the legendary Reploid Zero, hero of the Reploid Wars. And he's like, oh, all right. But she's like, yeah, help us. We're being attacked by these soldiers. And he says, okay. And he starts shooting, and he blows everything up. He's really strong. He's a legendary Reploid. He's the strongest warrior, just like back in the day. He's the baddest Robo. Ciel is overjoyed because she now has this legendary Reploid on her side, and Zero doesn't really remember who he was. I think he starts to kind of hazily remember things about his old life. I don't know if he ever really fully remembers everything from back when he was in the Maverick Wars, but he remembers. He definitely remembers at least bits and pieces of it. Everyone's asking, like, "Wow, like, are you really the legendary Reploid Zero?" Or if he does something amazing, like, wow, you really are the legendary Reploid Zero. They sort of play it like it's a question, but it's really not. His memory is just kind of messed up. You might have noticed that we skipped over this period here called the Elf Wars. Don't worry, we'll talk about it. But for now, this is where the Zero series begins. So Ciel explains what's going on in this world. The blue robots she was running away from were, well, they are called Pantheons. They are the mass-produced... They're similar to the Joes, almost. They're the sort of mass-produced minions of the New World Order, which is called Neo Arcadia. And Neo Arcadia is I guess different people would have different opinions of it, but I would call it an evil empire or an evil nation, essentially, state, whatever you want to call it. Its leader is X. It's the X. Well, not really. Apparently, in development, their plan was that it was just going to be X was going to be the bad guy of this game. They changed it at some point, apparently near the end, like shortly before release, they changed it that it's not actually X, it's a perfect copy of X. Seal tells you that she created this perfect copy of X, and this copy X is the leader of Neo Arcadia, and he is persecuting Reploids, basically for the sake of humans. He's doing Reploid apartheid. There's an energy crisis, and humans need that energy, and Reploids use too much energy. You know, when push comes to shove, sorry, but Reploid lives don't matter, man. It's humans. It's humans first. It's a humans first society enforced by X, copy X. Reploids and humans do live together in Neo Arcadia, and this is kind of what I was talking about at the end of X5. In the bad ending, X says he'd like to build Elysium, a place where humans and Reploids live together. Well, in Neo Arcadia, they do live together. They are both citizens of Neo Arcadia, but obviously Reploids are considered lesser citizens, second-class citizens, and they are, at least at the moment, liable to be labeled Mavericks for any reason. And once they're labeled Mavericks, they are executed. And so these resistance members, the soldiers that CL is fleeing from Neo Arcadia with, are Reploids who were convicted as Mavericks and set to be executed, and they had to flee Neo Arcadia, for their lives. Right. So, CL made X by creating a perfect copy of him. And remember, copy X, or X and Zero, have special DNA. You know, they're not easy to copy. Gate did something pretty much unheard of by managing to create, I mean, this guy is obviously not a perfect copy of Zero, but to even create something based on Zero's DNA was considered highly remarkable and extraordinary and unusual. So she is a genius. She's a genius scientist to be able to do this. She is basically like the Roll and the Dr. Light of the Zero series, because she's a pink girl with blonde hair like Roll, but she's the scientist that is sort of in charge of the base of operations like Dr. Light or Dr. Kane. She is also working on a replacement energy source. She's trying to develop a new energy source that will solve the energy crisis and mean that Reploids can stop being persecuted by Neo Arcadia. I should mention that at the very near the beginning, shortly after he's awoken, Zero at first only has a gun. He's only got a buster, but this thing.
The fuck?
He's a one-man death squad. Do you really believe that he's immortal?
No, he just refuses to die.
Hyundai Ioniq 5 versus Tesla Model Y. Look what Ioniq 5 has.
Oh my god.
Every time.
This thing appears and gives him his Z-Saber. He says, "Here, Zero, take the Z-Saber." And he's like, what the heck, who are you? And he does not elaborate. This thing leaves, and Zero's like, "Okay, well, thanks for the sword." And now he's got a sword. CL explains that in this future world, there are these things called cyber elves. And cyber elves, in-game, they function as sort of like power-ups you can use. You
Why is it
energy
like
crystals
that?
to basically train them up to maturity, and once they're mature, you can use them to do things, to give yourself buffs and effects and things like that. Passy was a cyber elf. They're these little fairy cyborg things, and I'm pretty sure humans can't see them. I think only Reploids can see them. I think somewhere it's implied that CL uses some kind of like visor. She uses some kind of techno visor to see and interact with cyber elves. But they are data. They're sentient beings. They exist in cyberspace, right?
Oh my god, what the fuck do I do? I can't do anything.
This will be elaborated on in future Zero games, but yeah, they live in cyberspace, but they can interact with the real world, but to appear in the real world and to do a thing in the real world, to do their effect, uses up all their energy and kills them. So they are these very fragile data constructs that are sentient, just like humans, just like Reploids, but they're like, yeah, they're like little fairies, little cyber fairies, cyber elves they're called. Anyway, the plot of Zero mostly revolves around you doing missions for the Resistance. You rescue people from the desert.
I don't like this.
You go and you destroy weapons manufacturing plants that Neo Arcadia is using, etc., etc. The enemies that you fight, in place of Mavericks, I mean, you're the Mavericks. You're all the Mavericks in this series. The people you fight are like, they're high-ranking enforcers or soldiers or warriors of the Neo Arcadia, and they are called Mutos Reploids, and I think this is a mistransliteration of the word mythos, because they are mostly based on mythological creatures, things from myths and legends and various world religions and stuff. So, what are these guys called? These are Anubis Necromancis, Blizax Stagroth, Hanu Machine, Maha Ganisharif, Asura Basura, and Herculeus Anchus are the guys you fight. The final mission in the game in 01 is for you to go into the inner sanctum of Neo Arcadia and find Copy X and kill him, because he's an asshole. And indeed, he is. You get around in this game using a teleporter system. The teleporters are called trans servers. They are used for saving your game and for stuff like that, but they are, yeah, you trans yourself around between these different trans servers. Trans servers? You mean like on Discord? Anyway, you tell CL, trans me now, and she does. And you trans your way into Neo Arcadia, and you find Copy X after
Who the
fighting
fuck
through a
is
bunch of
it?
people. And Copy X,
This is such bullshit. Oh my god, I don't...
that he is carrying on the will of the original X. He is obsessed
Okay.
with his
This is sad.
status as a perfect copy of the original. He is convinced that he can do nothing that the original X would not have agreed
Wait.
with. He is in his own eyes a hero.
Maybe.
He is the hero of humanity who protects humanity against anything and everything, no matter the cost. I forgot to mention, there are these four, what are they called? Yeah, the four guardians. In Japan, they're called the four heavenly kings. They are these four elemental Reploids.
Suck.
Sage Harpuya, Fairy Leviathan, Fighting Fefnir, and Hidden Phantom. They are like Copy X's top lieutenants. This guy is a wind guy, he leads the Air Force. This lady leads the Navy. This guy leads ground troops, and this guy does stealth.
Wait, what the fuck am I what the fuck is wrong with me? Holy shit, I'm an idiot. I'm a fucking idiot. Holy shit, I just forgot. I fucking forgot about the ultimate tool.
Okay, I marked off some of the ones from
Holy shit, I'm the tool.
Yes, these guys all belong to
Change
different
canvas
squadrons led
size.
by these four. You fight these guys.
Oh my fucking god, I can't believe I'm
go
such a
through
fucking tool and I
various
forgot.
levels, and then at the
Holy
end,
shit.
the boss rush, you fight him, you
Holy
beat him, that's all
fucking
fine.
shit, I'm so mad at myself.
This guy's Hidden Phantom is so serious about stopping
What
you
is it?
from your mission that after you beat him, the battle's over, you've won, and he says, like, I'll take you with me, and he blows himself up. All the other ones survive. He blows himself up and permanently kills himself just to do a little explosion attack. And I'll be honest, when I played this game as a kid, it got me, because I did not expect it to suddenly hand me back control after the battle was already over and expect me to dodge an explosion that suddenly was coming at me. And it got me and it killed me after I was supposed to have won. So, good job, Phantom. You got me. And he's dead forever after that. He's gone. Basically. He's gone after 01. The rest stick around, the other three. They were originally, according to an interview in the Rockman Zero Complete Works book, in the original design phase, because the rank and file soldiers of Neo Arcadia are the Pantheons, which kind of look like X, except instead of a face, they have sort of like a cavity with like one big red eye in the middle, a little bit like the Joes, who just have one eye in the middle of their face. And by the way, I don't know if I mentioned it at the time. I think I got.
Well, I don't need that ruler anyway.
But I wanted to say that there are some materials somewhere, maybe it's mentioned in an interview or a newsletter, that the Joes were maybe based on Proto Man, because when Proto Man is disguised as Breakman, he kind of looks like a Joe. He's got the mask and he's got one eye visible. That's off topic. But the four Guardians, when they were originally designed, they
was it Joe?
intended them all to be blue. Looks like a Proto Man, because newsletter that the Joes mentioned in an interview. I wanted to say that there are some materials somewhere, maybe it's mentioned in an interview or a newsletter, that the Joes were maybe based on Proto Man, because when Proto Man is disguised as Breakman, he kind of looks like a Joe. He's got the mask and he's got one eye visible. That's off topic. But the four Guardians, when they were originally designing them, they intended them all to be blue, like the Pantheons and like X. They were going for a theme of like, Zero's red, bad guys are blue in this game. Good guy red, bad guys all blue. They changed it because they decided that the different colors emphasize their different elemental natures a little bit better. And it was easier to tell them apart in sprite form. But anyway, you fight your way through them.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Copy X, and Copy X thinks he's a hero. He's obsessed with X's legacy, and he's like, well, come at me, Zero. And he transforms into his battle mode. He's got different elemental powers. He's this like white and gold thing with all these wings coming off of him. And you beat him, and he transforms into a giant battle body, just like so many other final bosses before. He gets these big 6-wing things, turns into this big angel, keeps doing elemental attacks. You beat him, and he crumbles to the ground, and he's lying on the ground with his face half blasted off, and Zero says, weak. Was the original X this weak? Copy X says, how did you... I'm supposed to be a hero. And Zero says, I remember, the original X was not as naive as you are. That's what made him a hero. I wonder... Copy X is supposed to be a perfect copy in terms of his DNA. I guess the difference would be that X had to go through that 30-year diagnostic I wonder if that's the difference. I'm not sure if that was just... if that did something like that 30-year diagnostic process that he had to do in Dr. Light's secret lab before he was discovered by Dr. Kane. I wonder if that is what, like, safeguarded him against Maverick virus infection. He is immune to the Maverick virus, by the way. Some games, they kind of imply that he's scared that he might become infected. In X4, he says, like, Zero, if I ever go Maverick, you know, I want you to be the one to take me out. But later, it's clearly established that no, he is immune to the Maverick virus. I wonder if that diagnostic process in the tube was what maybe made the difference in making him like a better person, like safeguarded him against becoming evil. You know, in the first X game, it's sort of more implied, because Sigma isn't a virus. There isn't really a Maverick virus in X1. It's just Reploids go Maverick, and it's just they become evil and they rebel. Sigma is just a guy leading a rebellion, at least early on. I mean, by X4, there definitely is a Maverick virus, which X can't be infected by, although he might not know that at the time. Even absent a viral infection, X could go Maverick in that he could decide that he wants to be evil. Any Reploid could do that. So I think the diagnostics that he was subject to in the tube might have been there to safeguard and check, like, is X a good person? Like, does X have good values? Is he a safe individual to be let out among people? So, a perfect copy, I think you could argue that the diagnostics merely determined that yes, X is good, therefore it is safe, and so it shouldn't matter whether you perform them on copy X, because it's the same being, so the diagnostics would return the same process. Or did they somehow have an effect? Did they give him some sort of information, some sort of, like, artificial experience of the world, some sort of artificial, you know, moral judgment logic that Copy X does not have? Or is the difference just that X lived through the Maverick Wars and had all that experience of like, hey, bad things are bad and doing bad things to people is wrong. Don't persecute people, Reploids, or no. Anyway, Copy X says, I won't forgive you, I'll take you with me. And just like Phantom, he starts blowing himself up and detonating the place and caving it in. Copy X is dead. You've killed Copy X. The place explodes and you are just in the desert. You're just blown out into the desert. Who appears but this guy? And this guy projects his image, and it's X. It's the real X. The old X is dead, but his spirit lives on as a cyber elf. He has transcended death and become a Jedi Force ghost in cyber elf form. He lives in cyberspace. And so this hologram cyber elf of X says they'll retcon it a little bit. They'll tell you more in the next games, but in the first Zero, it's pretty funny because what he says is like, yeah, you know, Zero, I just got so tired. I just got so tired of being a robot cop, being a Maverick hunter, fighting all the time, waging war. It wasn't for me. I couldn't do it. I couldn't keep it up. I just lost my will to go on. And now I'm a cyber elf, kind of implying that he just got so bored of living that he just died. He just is like, I don't want to do it anymore, and then he was dead. That's not really the case, as we'll learn in the next games, but that's kind of how it sounds in Zero 1. So it was Cyber Elf X that gave Zero his Buster back, which, if X5 were the last of the series, as it was meant to be, you remember, it ends with X getting, he takes up Zero's Z-Saber. Why not use the prop? And he's like, I'll use this to, do good things in the future. I will carry on Zero's spirit. And so then Cyber Elf X returns it to Zero at the beginning of Mega Man Zero 1. And one final note about that. Sorry, you see, X is... The true X has become Cyber Elf X, but he was merely copied in order to replicate him as Copy X. One additional note to that is I think there's a computer database in the game. It's either this game or the next game, I don't remember, but soon the game will establish that the 4 Guardians, remember they were going to be blue initially, well they are based on they are based on original X's DNA. Well, actually, I think it first says that they are sort of designed based on him, like they were sort of designed modeled after him, but then I think 2 or 3 is a little more explicit when you read about them. And no, they're basically imperfect clones, or they're partial clones of portions of his DNA. So they are sort of like his kids. Actually, I believe that same timeline that I mentioned before, the one that says that Zero remained infected with the virus, but it made him good. I believe that same timeline actually says that when X died, and we'll get into the actual manner of his death later, but it says that when he died, he actually split into 5 cyber elves, and the other 4 were made into these 4, and the 5th one just remained as this. I think that's stupid. I think that sounds dumb, and I don't like it. The game says they're based on his DNA, and I think that is more reasonable, so I choose to believe it. And that's our introduction to the Zero series. That's Zero 1. One more thing I want to say about Zero 1 before we move on is that one of the Resistance members is this old man called Andrew. And Andrew, you can talk to him in every game, and his thing is that he doesn't know who you are. He thinks you're just some guy who looks like that legendary hero Zero and shares his name, and he just thinks that's a funny coincidence. So Andrew appears in every Zero game, and he is an old man, and his thing is that he wants to tell you a long story, and you can listen to his story if you want, and it will give you a little test. It will ask you repeatedly, oh, you probably don't want to listen anymore. Oh, I'm sure I'm boring you. And you have to, it always defaults to, like, yeah, I'm bored. But if you're paying attention, you got to pay attention so you can be like, no, keep telling me more. No, tell me more. Or I think in 2 or 3, there's one where you have to answer questions about his story after he tells it to you. But anyway, they want you to listen to his long, boring story, and in exchange, he will give you some good stuff. In the first game, the most interesting thing he has to say, well, he says a bunch of things. He talks about times before things were bad between humans and Reploids. He is from a time either before Neo Arcadia or at least before Neo Arcadia got bad, because it seems like Neo Arcadia only got really bad in recent time, bad for Reploids. It only got really bad for Reploids recently when Copy X came by, when CL made Copy X, so good job CL, and also when the energy shortage came about. So those two things were what really made bad for Reploids and Neo Arcadia. Before that, it seems like maybe things were okay. At some point, they might have been, pretty equal, and things were all right for a while until there were issues. Anyway, the most interesting thing about Andrew, though, is that he was married to a human. He is a Reploid. All the Resistance members are Reploids, in case that wasn't clear. He is a Reploid. He was married to a human, and the reason he is an old man, the reason he looks like that, he wasn't built like that. He was modified. He had his body modified to make himself look older as his wife aged, so that he could age with her until she died a long, long time ago. And now he's just an old man, and he looks like that, and he's like, well, oh well. It's so sweet, and it speaks to, for a time, it seems like X's dream was realized. Humans and Reploids in Neo Arcadia did live together and coexist peacefully until then they didn't anymore. So then in the next couple years, 0, 2, 3, and 4 come out, but also X7 and X8 come out. I guess I'll just go through the 0 series while I'm on the subject, and then I'll circle back to X7 and X8. And also, no, I won't be talking about Command Mission because it is technically a spin-off side game of different canon. I believe that somewhere in the copy on the box or something, Command Mission says that it's supposed to take place 100 years in the future from Mega Man X, which seems weird, doesn't seem right. That would place it in the same time period as Mega Man 0. And I mean, it is, supposed to be non-canon. So I guess it's not exactly a conflict. It's just really weird, and it doesn't, the scenario is hardly different at all. I don't really understand why they felt the need to make it a sideline timeline, but they did. So I didn't play it, and it doesn't count. The sun's going down. I've been at this all day again. Mega Man 0 2. At the end of 0-1, 0 was just left in the desert. He did not have access to a trans server to teleport back to the Resistance base, so he just is like, well, just gonna wander the desert. And so, in between 1 and 2, he spends a year just wandering around in the desert, killing Pantheons, destroying Neo-Arcadian soldiers whenever he finds them, until he gets worn down enough that he just passes out in the desert. And at some point, Sage Harpuya finds him. I'm not sure if they make this explicit in the games, but somewhere it's written that Harpuya became the new leader of Neo Arcadia. Sage Harpuya is basically the first among these 4, well, 3 now because Phantom is gone, or at least he's the most leaderly type. His Japanese title means like wise commander. So he's the smart guy. So he took charge after X was killed. So you find him in the desert. Sorry. He finds you, and by you I mean him, in the desert, and he brings you back to the Resistance base, because I guess he respects you. So you wake up there, and you're like, whoa, what the heck? And you're back, and CL's there, and she's happy to see you. But things are a little bit different at a new base. By the way, the first game took place in they kind of Dark Souls'd this game in the sense that the first game in the series has an open world that you can freely explore, and then the second game onward don't, and they never brought that back. It was sort of Metroidvania-y in the first one. You could leave the base and just walk to the side and go to areas that you did missions in when you weren't in a mission, and then they nix that feature in the subsequent games, and they don't bring it back. I mean, you can still go back to old areas, but you could do that in any of these games. but they're not connected that way anymore. I guess it was too much work, or it didn't matter. So anyway, the new Resistance base, Ciel is no longer the commander. She has handed over command to this guy, whose name is El Piso. And his deal is that he used to work in Neo Arcadia. He had a name. Oh, by the way, one of the Resistance members in the first game tells you this as well. They tell you their old name. It's like D04I. It's like just letters and numbers. Reploids just get letter number names in Neo Arcadia. They don't get real names. Ciel gives all of them new names when they escape, and she generally names them things in French. Most of them are bird names, like
Oh,
and,
I thought
Silhouette
my break
and,
started already. Okay.
Syrup,
Okay.
Syrup,
I thought my break was like almost over, but apparently
and I mean,
I
is French
ended
for
my
sky.
work
I guess
session
maybe
early.
the
Okay.
custom in the Neo-Arcadian custom
I still have
model
like one more half hour, so it's gonna be fine. Just
he extended that to Reploids as well in the Resistance. That might be the implication there. And one more thing about the Resistance is, sorry for the small picture, but they all wear their symbol, and in this picture they all have it pointing up, but I think some of their uniforms, or maybe in other games, they have it pointing down. But this red triangle that they all wear on their head, I'm not certain about this. I don't know if they adopted that symbol on their own,
where's Party yet?
or if it was
Where's Mega Man? Oh, it's
forced
2.
upon them. And what I mean by that is that I have to wonder if the red triangle is some sort of like, how do I say this delicately? Some sort of marking that Neo Arcadia placed on Reploids, like, you know, pink triangle, Star of David sort of get on the train sort of thing, be sorted into camps kind of thing. I don't know. That's where my mind goes. It could be that that's the case, that they were marked with it, and that they then sort of adopted the symbol in their uniforms as like a...
What's fucked up about it is that they still do that later on. Like, it's kind of fucked in my opinion that they keep the upside down triangle in ZX series. Because it's like, oh man, still robot racism going on. It's pretty fucked.
We're taking it back kind of thing. It could be that they just adopted it of their own and that I'm just thinking too hard about it. I don't know. But it is a reference. It's funny that they're all upside down. They're in other images, they are sometimes right side up. But the red triangle is a reference to X's red head gem. That is the upside down red triangle.
Where is it?
As I'm editing this, a thought occurs to me, and that is that copy X and the full... But it is a reference. We're taking with it, and that's where my mind goes. Triangle, Star of Dadia on their own. Sorry for the small picture, but they all wear their symbol. And in this picture, they all have it pointing up, but I think some of their uniforms, or maybe in other games, they have it pointing down. But this red triangle that they all wear on their head, I'm not certain about this. I don't know if they adopted that symbol on their own, or if it was forced upon them. And what I mean by that is that I have to wonder if the red triangle is some sort of like, how do I say this delicately? Some sort of marking that Neo Arcadia placed on Reploids, like, you know, pink triangle, Star of David sort of get on the train sort of thing, be sorted into camps kind of thing. I don't know. That's where my mind goes. It could be that that's the case, that they were marked with it, and that they then sort of adopted the uniform, like we're taking it back.
Okay.
Sort of thing. It could be that they just adopted it of their own, and that I'm just thinking too hard about it. I don't know. But it is a reference. It's funny that they're all upside down. They're in other images, they are sometimes right side up. But the red triangle is a reference to X's red head gem. That is the upside down red triangle. As I'm editing this, a thought occurs to me, and that is that Copy X and the 4 Guardians all have the triangle pointing downward. It's part of their
Oh, yeah,
head.
I forgot.
So I wonder if the inverted red triangle is like a sign of opposition against them. Later, the red triangle pointing downward will be a sign of just Reploids in general. But maybe at this point, this is like it's not like marking them as Reploids. It's we're against the, our Reploid leaders who have betrayed us. Looking over the concept art, the only Resistance members I can find that wear the triangle pointing down are El Piso and this kind of like more combat-ready soldier uniform, which is like, we're going into battle right now. So they both have like a crest, which has the downward pointing triangle on the front, but all the other Resistance members in more like casual uniforms have the triangle pointing up, the inverted one. So, dunno. Just thinking. Later we'll see it. Reploids will wear it on their forehead in that place pointing down. Anyway, that's some stuff about the Resistance. So El Piso worked for Neo Arcadia, and he had one of these crummy like E179 names. He escaped from Neo Arcadia, and he brought with him, well, one of these two, what they call baby elves. These little like special cyber elves that seem different from the other ones. They don't know why they're different yet, but we will find out. There are two of them. He brought one. He somehow acquired it. Actually, this is elaborated on in, I believe, a drama CD, or no, it's a soundtrack. It's the Rockman Zero soundtrack, of which there were several CD releases, some of which included drama tracks, and in one of those...
Wait, yeah, what the fuck?
Where you hear the person who would eventually name himself El Piso worked for Harpuya, and he was some kind of pencil pusher or something, and they did some sort of survey of like a wrecked ship, and they found some information. They found a record of some stuff from the Elf Wars. Wait a minute, cyber elves? Elf Wars? Could there be a connection? No, you're imagining things. So he found some information about something called Project El Piso, which I will explain more about later. He, having come across this knowledge, he was a good boy. He was like, I'm not supposed to know this. I'm going to ignore this. I'm going to pretend I never saw anything. But it doesn't matter. The fact that he like stumbled upon these secret documents made him a risk. So he was labeled a maverick and sentenced to execution, and so he fled rather than face that. And that's his backstory. And again, that's more than what's in the games, but I see no reason not to consider it canon. It doesn't conflict with anything. It lines up with what we're told in the game, which is just that he worked in Neo Arcadia and escaped. Anyway, he took one of these elves. He's the commander of the Resistance, and he is a lot more belligerent about it than CL. CL's idea is that they just want to survive and avoid Neo Arcadia while she continues to work on and perfect her new energy source, which will solve the energy crisis. And she thinks that if the energy crisis is solved, there will be no more need for conflict and everything will be fine. El Piso is like, no, they won't forgive us even if we solve the energy crisis. It's us or them, and we have to be proactive. We have to start fighting back. It's funny, all the rank and file soldiers seem to really like El Piso, but all the like named characters that you talk to, they all like, I got a bad feeling about that El Piso guy. When you first meet El Piso, he's perfectly nice, and he's happy to meet you, and he reaches out to shake your hand, and Zero just doesn't shake his hand back, because Zero just gets a bad feeling from him. And he tells El Piso, Neo Arcadia is not a sitting duck. We can't possibly fight them. El Piso's like, thanks for the advice, appreciate it, but this is our only hope, so we're gonna do it. He's kind of got a point. I see his point. And indeed, he will be somewhat vindicated later in his belief that Neo Arcadia will not forgive even if they solve the energy crisis. He turns out to be right about that. But anyway, in the moment he plans and executes Operation Righteous Strike, which is just, they're going to assemble their resistance forces, they're going to go into Neo Arcadia, they're going to hit some key targets, they're going to kill a lot of Neo Arcadian soldiers, and it's going to be a victory. It's going to embolden the resistance troops. It's going to be a major victory for morale. It's a complete failure. Everyone dies. The whole thing is obliterated. The four guardians show up and mop him up. El Piso barely survives, and he loses his mind. He can't cope with this. He's like, well, okay, I'm gonna go rogue. I have a plan, and he is obviously evil
What?
now, and he does a scary anime eye. I'm gonna get power. I'm gonna get power on my own. I'll destroy Neo Arcadia myself. And he has some secret plan, and he is off pursuing some strange goals, and what will eventually become clear is that the baby elf, right, the baby elf that he brought with him from Neo Arcadia, he brought that with him when he went rogue and went off on his own, and he tracks down the other of the two. There are two baby elves, and Alouette, the little girl, member of the Resistance, she names them Kriya and Priya. Yeah, there's two baby elves, and he gets both of them, and they are telling him what to do. I guess I might as well mention now that over the course of this, we go on more missions, and we fight the 3 remaining Guardians, and we fight Highleg Orobuckle, Polar Camrus, Panther Fauclaws, Phoenix Magnion, Burble Hekalot, and Kuwagust Anchus. And you know what? Let me mark this because this is a fact. This is an interesting fact that is remarked upon in the game. This is not speculation. Herculeus Anchus and Kuwagust Anchus are brothers. They are both electric element beetle mutos reploids who are brothers, and you have to fight them tag team later. And that is, I think, a reference to, and I didn't mention this because I forgot because it's not that important, but it's interesting, Boomer Kuwanger from X1 and Gravity Beetle from X3? Is that 3? Yeah, they're also brothers, and I'm pretty sure Herculeus and Kuwagus are like a reference to that because they're also a red and a blue beetle who are brothers, so there we go. Actually, you know what? I guess I might as well also mention Volt Kraken. When you fight him in X5, he is angry at you because you killed, in English he says something about Octopardo, and I guess it's a bad translation because what he's talking about is Launch Octopus. He's mad that Launch Octopus was killed by you, and I think they were brothers. They were at least friends. I think they were brothers. I'm gonna mark it. And you know what? I forgot to mark the Sigma virus. In X6, with the Maverick virus is everywhere. Before the colony crashes and the colony virus merges with the Maverick virus and becomes, or the Sigma virus and becomes the Zero virus, pretty much everyone gets infected. So all these guys in this game are either infected or in the process of becoming infected during the game. Although, interestingly, this guy, Dark Devil Bat, he has all these guys, their little life bar has a little skull icon on them. This guy has the Sigma, the same Sigma from before, this guy's symbol, and it represents that he was actually infected he was infected a long time ago with the old strain of the Sigma virus, and so he's got a different version of it. These guys, everyone else has like the new version that it was spread around before the colony. So it's not the colony virus. I don't know. It's different somehow. It's just a different strain. It's just a new variant. So anyway, El Piso, I didn't mention this, but according to that extra backstory from the drama track, he names himself after this thing called Project El Piso that he reads about. This has to do with the Elf Wars. I will explain it later. El Piso is following the instructions of the baby elves, who are telling him, you need to go deep into the heart of Neo Arcadia to a place that is not named in the game, but it is called Yggdrasil. It is a giant tree in the center of Neo Arcadia where, and I think you only find this out when you actually get there, X's original body, remember his mind is now in the form of this cyber elf, but his original body is there, and he is like crucified basically against this tree. He is there to seal away something called the Dark Elf, who the baby elves refer to as their mother. So the Dark Elf is sealed away inside of Yggdrasil, and El Piso has gone there on the baby elves' orders in order to destroy X's body and break the seal and free the Dark Elf, and that's exactly what he does. The Dark Elf superpowers him, makes him really strong, but it's not enough, so it superpowers him even more, and he turns into a big demon wing thing, and you fight him, and you beat him, and he dies. And as he dies, he laments, he regrets, he says, I was wrong. I should not have done what I did. At some point, he went from wanting to fight back against Neo Arcadia. At some point, he decided, I'm also going to kill all humans. He's like, humans are the enemy. They persecuted us. I'm going to kill them right back. So he went crazy. And he says, I'm sorry at the end. It seems like it was the baby elf's influence over him that might have made him do that, or maybe it was the dark elf. But, he's dying, but before he dies, the dark elf transforms him into a cyber elf. So he kind of lives on in this cyber elf form, and he says, hey, thanks, dark elf. I guess you're not evil. I appreciate it. Goodbye. And then he goes. So the dark elf also goes, just flies away, free now. Cyber Elf X shows up, and he explains that the Dark Elf was not always the Dark Elf. She was created a long time ago, but she was cursed by someone called Dr. Vile, and that's spelled W-E-I-L. I'm actually not sure if that's how you're supposed to pronounce it. As a kid, I said wheel. In Japanese, he's called Dr. Vile, V-I-L-E, but there was already a guy in English named Vile. Remember, this guy's called Baba in Japanese. So I think that's why they changed this guy's name in English to this. But I think it's supposed to be German, so the W should be pronounced like a V. So I think maybe you're supposed to just say it Vile, and it's just spelled this way. That's how I'm going to say it. That makes sense to me. So, yeah, Cyber Elf X says that the Dark Elf was not always the Dark Elf. She was cursed by someone called Dr. Vile. Zero says, the Dark Elf knew my name. How did the Dark Elf know me, and why does the Dark Elf seem so familiar to me? Remember, Zero has incomplete memories of his time before awakening. I don't know if he ever really fully remembers everything. He's just kind of got hazy, doesn't really remember what happened between when he was sealed away and when he woke up. Or even before that. Yeah, he kind of barely remembers his life before 22XDX. Anyway, in a final scene, we get a mysterious voice saying, the Dark Elf is unsealed. It's time to unleash Omega. What does that mean? Well, we'll find out immediately, because X3 begins with a spaceship, a giant spaceship. Does it have a name? I think it might be called the Space Ark. It doesn't matter. The point is that it has inside of it a giant Reploid called Omega. It gives off an energy signal similar to the Dark Elf, and the Resistance is mystified by this. Zero is not able to defeat Omega, and then, in addition, Dr. Vile, this is him, appears, and he's this old man in like a looks like some sort of life preservation tank. Keeping him alive, I guess. And these guys show up. The three Guardians show up. They try to fight Omega as well. They think it's a threat. They don't know what's going on. Dr. Vile leaves, takes Omega with him, and he has brought Copy X back as Copy X, or Copy X Mark II, they call him. And this Copy X is the same as original Copy X, only he's got a speech impediment. He stutters when he speaks, so he's clearly not perfect. But Dr. Vile's just like, yeah, I brought him back. No, he's back. He's fine. He's fine, and he's the president of Neo Arcadia, obviously. And you know what? He's decreed that I should be welcome back to Neo Arcadia, and I'm going to be his right-hand man now. So, hi everyone. Nice to meet you. These three just kind of have to deal with it. Harpuya speaks to X. There's a scene where X is sitting, new Copy X Mark II is just sitting bored on his giant X throne, like Dracula. And Harpuya is like, hey, Master X, love you, worship you, so glad you're back. Very happy about that. However, I have some concerns. Isn't Dr. Vile a heinous war criminal expelled from Neo Arcadia for atrocities beyond imagining? And Copy X Mark II is like, yeah, he was expelled illegally. It didn't follow the proper legal channels. It didn't count. And one thing I want to say about Copy X and Copy X Mark II is that it makes me so mad, because both of their talk sprites, their in-game portraits, do not match their character sprites, and it does not match the aesthetic of the series. In Mega Man Zero, you might have noticed that the Reploids mostly just look like dudes. They pretty much look like people, as opposed to the sort of big, bulky, like giant feet, boots guys of the X Games with the big white Mickey Mouse glove hands. These guys don't really look like... I mean, they do wear gloves, but they look more normal. The one thing about them, though, is that they all have, except the ones where it's covered, but they all have these, like, things on their heads. These guys kind of all have, like, sort of ovals. Seal wears, like, a... I think this is just a hat, because she's a human, but I find it interesting that she wears, like, a hat that sort of has on it these attachments that sort of look like a Reploid's ears. It's almost like she's sort of wearing, like, a thing that makes her look more like a Reploid. Zero's got these long attachments. Reploids generally have these sort of long mechanical pieces. And X also has a helmet, and then there's sort of like a long part at the bottom. He sort of has like an elongated bottom of his helmet. Well, they don't do that in the Talk Sprite. They have him with the old style ears, which all the Reploids in X generally have. They have these circular holes in the side of their head. And they gave him that, I guess, to make him look more like his previous self, but it doesn't match. And why? I mean, Zero doesn't look anything like his old self. So why? I don't know why they did that. It's really irritating, and it makes no sense. So, obviously, as you can see, they also gave him red eyes. Copy X has red eyes. Copy X Mark II has blue eyes for some reason. I don't know why they changed that, but whatever. Copy X has red eyes, even though Classic X he actually had green eyes. I assumed they were blue, but no, they're always green when you can make out his eye color. No, wait, time to be pedantic. Technically, in the first couple X games, his close-up face sprites show him with blue eyes. This might be like a color limitations thing. All of the concept art, from outside the games show him with eyes that I would call at the very least green-ish. Maybe you could call them teal, but they're definitely not blue. Then his in-game art in X4, he has what I would call greenish or teal eyes, and thereafter they seem to settle on green, and they're always green from then on. So I would say X has green eyes, canonically. But anyway, yeah, obviously they did this just to make him, it looks more sinister that way. But also, I was looking through the Rockman Official Complete Works book. There were bosses in previous games where you had to fight against copies of Mega Man, like in the old classic Rockman games. In Mega Man 1, you had to fight against a duplicate called Copy Robot, and then in Mega Man 3, you had to fight against 3, I guess they're supposed to be hologram duplicates. They're called the Holograph Mega Mans. And yeah, as you can see, these copy versions of Mega Man had red eyes. I don't know if that was a deliberate reference by Inti Creates when they gave Copy X the red eyes. Don't know if this was referencing these previous copies of Mega Man, but I thought it was interesting nonetheless. And I gotta say, the red eyes just look awesome. They look so cool. I think they're great. So I support the change 100%. I also heard a theory, and this is another one from that old dragon, the Reploid Revo channel. I saw a video of his where he talked about the style change of Zero, and some people would argue that, like I said, Reploids look more like humans. They look very similar to humans in Zero, except for some little bits, whereas they kind of look more bulky and mechanical in X. And so the question is this just how Zero looks in the new art style, which I love, by the way. The art is so gorgeous in the Zero series. I love it so much. Is this just how he looks in the new series, in the new art style, or does this reflect a canon, like, yeah, his body was modified at some point? And I'm on the fence about it, because we don't really see him.
Come on, where is it?
Get one character change when the X Hunters rebuild him in X2. He comes back with a slightly different body and a slightly different shoulder pads, and you could maybe write that out in aesthetic. But other than that, he never really. There's no really other changes to his body, to his design, other than like when they upscale his sprite for the graphical jump to the PlayStation. They don't really do anything more like that until Zero, and suddenly he looks completely different. So is this a canon change? And I don't know. I'm on the fence about it. Because thematically, in the grand scheme of the universe of the Mega Man games, it would make sense if Reploids are canonically looking more and more human. A progression of Reploids towards resembling humans fits. But I don't know when they would have upgraded Zero. I don't know when he would have had these changes made to his body to look like this. I can't quite fit it into the timeline. You know what? I'll explain why it doesn't fit in a moment when I get more into the backstory. So anyway, that's what's going on with Neo Arcadia. Copy X Mark II has been reinstated as president. Vile is basically running things for real. He's back. He's been absolved of all his crimes, and he instates these 8 Mutos Reploids in this game. They're called 8 Gentle Judges. I think that's only in Japanese. But in English, they're called Vile's Numbers, which, remember, the Robot Masters in this classic series were called the Light Numbers and the Wily Numbers, DLN and DWN. So these are the Vile Numbers, which I guess would also be DWN in English, DVN in Japanese. But they are, oh god, what are their names? Blazon Flyzard, Childra Inarabita, Devilbat Schlitt, Deathtan's Mantisk, Cupid Foxtar, Glacier Lekaktank, Volteal Biblio, and Tratista Kelvarian. They are Vile's numbers. They are the bosses in this game. They have been brainwashed to serve Vile. They are loyal to Vile, not to Neo Arcadia. They are not, these guys are doing their job serving their country. These guys are like, we're Vile's secret police. So what Vile wants is to find the Dark Elf, because he wants to combine it with Omega. And this combination of Vile and Omega was what Project El Piso was. Apparently, when you combine Omega and the Dark Elf, it creates something called the Perfect Ruler. It basically, they both empower each other to... Alright, so the Dark Elf, as we saw with El Piso in the last game, the Dark Elf can alter a Reploid's DNA. Not unlike the Nightmare virus from X6. It can alter a Reploid's DNA and also mind control them. It can bend them to his will, and this is basically what was happening with El Piso. The baby elves are clones of the Dark Elf. They are similar to the Dark Elf. They would grow up to be identical to it. So yeah, the Dark Elf is a mind control, give you superpowers, control your body, change your DNA at will kind of creature. And inside of Omega, it can do this on like a global scale. It can control like the entire Reploid population like this. So that's bad, but Vile senses, they get a signal like, oh crap, we found the Dark Elf. We gotta get Omega to it. Oh, it's in a human residential district. That's okay. Put Omega on a giant rocket and fire that rocket into the human district. Just get Omega close to the Dark Elf by any means necessary. So they put it on a rocket and they fire it, and Zero's gotta jump on the rocket and ride it and fight enemies on this rocket while it's firing into this human district. But he's too late. It lands. It combines with the Dark Elf. And that's really bad. So,
oh my god. I'm so close to being done with this. I'm actually really glad I did this, though.
They suddenly turn on Zero and Seal, but Cyber Elf X is like, bam, everyone's unconscious. Alright, I bought you a little time. Zero, you gotta go. You gotta go and put a stop to this right now. So Zero goes to Neo Arcadia. Zero finds Copy X. Zero fights Copy X again. Copy X Mark II is like, damn it, I'm supposed to be the perfect copy. Why can't I defeat you? And Zero's like, listen, stand aside. And he's like, no, I'm activating my super form. I'm going to become a giant battle body and fight you again. And as he tries to do this, Elf X is like, don't do
Yeah,
that.
because they all have the same level.
To activate, to
And that's
self-destruct,
so
but he
fucking
does it
nice.
anyway.
Oh my god.
And he dies. Copy X in general is like the saddest, most pitiful villain ever. He has such delusions of grandeur, and he's just so... he's just so worthless. Betrayed by everyone. Exists only in the shadow of a former hero. Tramples all over the legacy of his past self, who he admires so much, in an attempt to be like him. Just fails at everything he ever attempts to do, out of misplaced hubris and belief that he can do no wrong. It's tragic. Okay, so Zero goes to Neo Arcadia again, confronts Vile, finds Omega, fights this giant monster, Omega. It's messed up. Its giant battle body form kind of looks like X and Zero a little bit, which is strange, but Zero prevails. However, it turns out that when he breaks Omega's armor, inside of Omega is the true Omega. And what Omega actually is on the inside is Zero, the real Zero, kind of. It's Zero's body. It's the real body of the original Zero from 21XDX. This Zero that you've been playing as is actually the mind, or the DNA soul, or whatever, the cyber elf, whatever you want to call it. It's the soul of the real Zero that was transplanted into another body, a duplicate body, not a perfect copy, but a good enough replica. Yeah, the real one is Omega. And the Dark Elf, what the Dark Elf is a program. It was the first cyber elf, prototype of all other cyber elves, and it was designed with the ability to rewrite Reploid DNA because that would allow it to erase Sigma virus, all viruses in fact. The Dark Elf was created as a perfect antidote to the Sigma virus, and indeed, it wiped out the Sigma virus. There is no more Sigma virus, and it's because the Dark Elf could just delete it out of a Reploid. For the first time, the Sigma virus was curable with the power of the Mother Elf, as it was called. This was before Vile cursed it, as X put it. And I'll be honest, I'm not sure if they actually get around to making this super clear in the games, but it is made clear in supplementary material. The Dark Elf is based on Zero's mind. They basically studied Zero's mind that was transplanted into this alternate body, and they used data from Zero's brain as the basis for this master program virus antidote that became the Dark Elf. So the Dark Elf is sort of based on Zero in a way, as a countermeasure to the Sigma virus. Oh yeah, this is Omega, by the way, and this is the Mother Elf, in case that wasn't clear. And you know what? Just for good measure, Dr. Vile basically modified the original Zero into Omega, made this big armor container for him, I guess, as also a container for the Dark Elf when they combine into Project El Piso. So where does that leave us? Alright, so anyway, Zero finds out all this at the last minute, and he's got to fight his old self. And by the way, the question of Zero's design is, I guess a lot of people think that Omega should look like this. Omega should look like Zero's, old style body, but he doesn't. He looks very similar. He's just a slightly different coloration of the new style Zero, which kind of suggests that no, it is just an art style change. Canonically, according to the canon of the Zero series, Zero always looked like this. Reploid Revo, I believe, argues that Zero was upgraded into a more humanoid form because Zero was alive. He was reawoken, and he fought in the Elf Wars. He was alive for this until I think they did the research on him that led to Omega and the Dark Elf. I believe he submitted himself for study in order to produce the Dark Elf, but then while that was happening, Dr. Vile basically, I think, stole his body and turned it into Omega, as well as cursing the Dark Elf in the pursuit of Project El Piso. Yeah, what I just said doesn't make any sense. We know from flashbacks that Zero was conscious and awake and fighting in the Elf Wars, and obviously those didn't happen until after the first elf, the Mother Elf, was created. So yeah, Zero presumably submitted himself for study to create the Mother Elf. Then after Vile turned it into the Dark Elf, that was what began the Elf Wars, so Zero must have woken up, fought some more, and then been put back to sleep. The circumstances around why he was put back under, I don't think are ever made entirely clear. But yeah, Zero must have fought in this current duplicate body against the Dark Elf and his original body as Omega before. For Omega to look like this, and for this to be a canon, like, change, like they upgraded his body to a new style of Reploid body, I mean, the change would have had to happen, I feel like, a long time ago, because the Elf Wars happened between the end of X. All of X takes place in 21 XDX. The Elf Wars are basically just a continuation of the Maverick Wars. They're pretty much just the last thing that happened in the Maverick Wars. My read is that it's a bigger time skip from the end of the Elf Wars to 22 XDX when Zero wakes up. And it's a fairly short one between these events, the events of the X series, and when the Elf War takes place. Pretty much these lead directly into these. Yeah, I might just double check this, and in-game info and the timeline given on the website for the collection both say that the Elf Wars ended a century ago. So, yeah, unless there was some kind of really fast, like, technological revolution that completely changed how Reploids were built and they suddenly had more human-looking bodies, like, right at the end of the Maverick Wars over a century ago, and then that new design just kind of stayed consistent for that whole time, I don't really see why current Zero and Omega both look like the new Reploid style. If it had turned out to be the case that, like, the Maverick Wars had gone on for more than a century and then ended with the Elf Wars not that long ago, and then, you know, X had been sacrificed himself basically to seal the Dark Elf, and then